Seeing Tian standing behind them, Ling Chen felt as if a massive lightning bolt had hit him in the head. He froze, and stared back at Tian. Beneath him, Shura had no idea that Tian was standing right there. She breathed raggedly, and licked her lips with her tongue. After feeling that Ling Chen had stopped moving, she gasped, "Big brother, don't stop, hurry up and do me." Ling Chen. A stream of cold sweat tricked down from Ling Chen's forehead as he debated whether or not he should continue moving. Seeing Tian's reaction, he could tell that she would not be forgetting about this anytime soon. This reaction told him that her mother had already told him about interactions between men and women, but evidently she had never seen it so up close before. Ah. The first cry of shock and surprise came from Tian. Seeing this sort of thing for the first time, Tian covered her eyes, turned around and ran away while screaming. She ran into the bedroom and slammed the door shut. The second cry came from Shura. Tian's scream caused her to yell out in shock even louder. She quickly grabbed her clothes and put them over herself. She unwrapped her legs from around Ling Chen's waist, and tried to move Ling Chen off herself. However, Ling Chen did not budge, keeping them connected. Goddammit, when did that little brat come out from the game? And she had been so silent when she woke up. What the hell? Big brother, what to do? Tian saw us, what to do? Shura's face became even redder, and was so embarrassed that she almost started crying. She had actually been seen like this by Tian, she didn't know how to act in front of the little Tian anymore. Ling Chen exhaled slowly, then started to laugh. If she saw. Never mind, let's keep going. But, Ling Chen once again began to thrust, and Shura started to moan again. Although she was incredibly embarrassed by what had just happened, she simply couldn't resist Ling Chen. Not too long after, Shura reached the peak of her pleasure, and let out a long cry. Her body softened, and the fluids leaking out soaked a large patch on the sofa. Ling Chen quietly opened the door to the bedroom. Inside, it was completely dark. Tian had completely covered herself with the blanket, and hearing the door open, she wrapped herself within the blanket even tighter. Ling Chen helplessly looked at Shura, whose face was still flushed red. Shura walked over, and gently patted the blanket, softly saying, Tian, you must be very hungry, right? Dinner's ready, so come out and eat. If you keep hiding in the blanket you'll feel sick. Tian did not respond at all. Shura bit her lips, and tried again. Tian, quickly eat dinner and we can go out to the night markets together. It's very beautiful in Beijing at night. Oh, and look, we bought a lot of sweets for Tian to eat, they're even yummier than chocolate. There was still no reaction from Tian. Even with such offers, she was still unwilling to come out. It seemed that the shock she had just experienced was not small. Let me try. Ling Chen walked over, and gently laughed. He reached out, and directly picked up the blanket with Tian inside. A cry of shock came out from within the blanket. Ling Chen moved part of the blanket aside, and Tian's little head appeared. Seeing Tian like this made Ling Chen laugh loudly. Tian quickly covered her eyes with her small hands. She exclaimed, I don't want to see. Ling Chen pulled her two small hands away, and casually said, if you saw it, you saw it. We can't change the past, and it's not that bad. With her hands pulled away, Tian tightly closed her eyes. All of a sudden, she began to cry, but Mummy said that only adults can do those things, and that I can't look at that sort of thing, otherwise I won't be pure anymore and I'll become a bad child. Mummy also said that my body can't be touched by men, otherwise I'll turn into a bad child, but you touched my hand, woo. I'm not pure anymore, and I'm a bad child now, Mummy won't like me anymore and won't want me anymore, woo woo. Ling Chen, Xue Ruo, hearing Tian say this, Xue Ruo sighed in relief. She stroked Tian's face, and gently said, Tian, your mummy's right, and little kids must obey their mummy. But Tian isn't a little kid anymore, right? Hearing Xue Ruo say this, Tian stopped crying as loudly. She sniffled, and vigorously nodded her head. I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm a big demon queen. After my magic recovers, I'm going to conquer the earth and go to save Mummy. I'm not a little kid. That's right, that's right. Xue Ruo smiled, since Tian's not a little kid anymore, Tian can look at things that little kids can't look at. Us girls can't let men touch our bodies, because once they touch us, we'll have to be with them forever, and only they can look at and touch our bodies. Did your mummy tell you these things? Ling Chen, come to think of it, what Xue Ruo's saying doesn't sound quite right. Oh, is she doing this on purpose? Xue Ruo seemed to know what he was thinking, and she turned to him and winked. Tian's face was still covered in tears, but she was not crying anymore. She said in a small voice. Be with them forever, like Daddy and Mummy? That's right. Tian's so smart. Xue Ruo quickly nodded. See, Tian's mummy only belongs to Tian's daddy, right? It's just like that. Tian looked up at Ling Chen, and stared at him for a while. Then and the big bad guy, do I have to be with him forever, and my body can only be looked at and touched by him? Ling Chen, exactly. Xue Ruo elegantly nodded as she smiled. All of her embarrassment from before seemed to have disappeared. In fact, Big Brother will continue to protect Tian, look after Tian, and won't let anyone bully Tian. He's also going to give Tian lots of yummy things to eat, so isn't this such a good situation? Ling Chen was feeling more and more conflicted. Although this was just to calm her down, this little girl was believing every single word coming out of Xue Ruo's mouth. Moreover, the sort of things Xue Ruo was saying didn't seem to be too good. Tian blinked a few times, earnestly listening to Xue Ruo. As she heard the last few sentences, her eyes shone. All of a sudden, there was someone who would protect her and give her lots of yummy things to eat, forever. This didn't seem too bad. So I'm really still pure and haven't turned into a bad child? So Mummy won't be mad at me and won't want me anymore? Tian anxiously asked. Of course. Tian's not a little kid anymore, so what's wrong with seeing those kinds of things? Plus, as long as Tian doesn't let any other man look at her body or touch her, it'll be completely fine. Xue Ruo sincerely said. Tian thought for a while, then weakly looked at Ling Chen, then, big bad guy, no, big bro, will you really protect me and give me lots of things to eat, forever? Of course, little Tian. Ling Chen forced himself to reply. All of a sudden, a decision that would affect the rest of Tian's life had been made. Tian's reaction told Ling Chen that little kids were way too easy to trick. Then, big sis, big bro, after eating dinner, let's go to the night market and buy lots of yummy food, okay? If Tian wants to go, we'll definitely go. Yay! Right after crying, Tian began to yell out in joy. She jumped out of the blanket, so hungry, let's eat. Is Heart's Dream going to recruit people or not? Even though there's that order from the Yan Huang Alliance, with Ling Tian's fame, I'm sure there would still be a lot of people who are willing to join. One player said. I don't know, maybe Ling Tian's afraid of the Yan Huang Alliance. After all, although the Yan Huang Alliance hasn't been officially established, its foundation is still there. No matter how strong Ling Tian is, if the Yan Huang Alliance wants to destroy a little guild that was just created, it would be like an elephant stepping on an ant. Ling Tian can only blame himself for humiliating the Yan-Huang alliance. If he dares to recruit people, their headquarters will be revealed sooner or later, and the Yan-Huang alliance will do all it can to destroy the guild sign. Another player retorted. Bullshit. Do you think Ling Tian would be afraid of the Yan-Huang alliance? He actually killed Long Tianyun twice, even when he was surrounded by thousands of Yan-Huang alliance players. Twice. Holy damn, look at the player level rankings. Ling Tian's already LV20. The players all opened the player level rankings. The number next to Ling Tian's name had indeed become 20. Rank 1, Ling Tian, Occupation, Ling Tian Battle Soul, Level, 20, Affiliation, Heart's Dream. Holy crap, this is way too fast. The Sword Emperor only just reached LV19. The forum said that after LV10, leveling up a single time required twice the amount of EXP from the previous level. Leveling from LV19 to LV20 requires twice as much EXP as leveling from LV18 to LV19. Ding, you have leveled up to LV20, HP plus 20, MP plus 20, Strength plus 5. Finally. The further south he went, the more powerful the monsters became. If he continued traveling, he might not be able to handle the monsters later on. As such, he primarily spent his time farming for the past few days, and he had finally reached LV20. Now, it won't be that easy for other people to catch up to me. Ling Chen quickly left the monster's territory. After reaching LV20, he was a bit disappointed that he did not receive a new skill. However, there were other pleasant surprises. Ding, your pet Ling'er has leveled up to LV20, MP plus 100, Magic Attack Power plus 20, Defense plus 10. Ding, your pet Ling'er's skill, Darkness Spike, has leveled up to LV3, Darkness Lock, has leveled up to LV3, Underworld Lock, has leveled up to LV3. Sin Lock, has been unlocked. Darkness Spike, current level, LV3, highest level, LV5, increasing to LV4 requires pet to be LV30. A darkness element attack that uses darkness elemental energy to create a darkness spike within 20 meters around the caster. Silently and stealthily pierces towards a target within 5 meters of where the darkness spike was formed. Base attack damage is magic attack power x 200%. Upon being hit, the target has a 5% of instant death. Costs 30 MP, no cooldown. Darkness Lock, current level, LV3, highest level, LV5, increasing to LV4 requires pet to be LV30. Uses darkness energy to bind all targets within 20 meters of the caster, creating illusory chains that adds debuffs to the targets. Once bound, the target's movement speed, attack speed, jumping ability, hit, evasion are all decreased by 20% for 20 seconds. Costs 50 MP, cooldown time, 60 seconds. Underworld Lock, current level, LV3, highest level, LV5, increasing to LV4 requires pet to be LV30. Uses darkness energy to bind all targets within 15 meters of the caster, creating illusory chains that adds debuffs to the targets. Once bound, the targets cannot use active skills for 15 seconds. Costs 120 MP, cooldown time, 60 seconds. Sin Lock, current level, LV1, highest level, LV5, increasing to LV2 requires pet to be LV35. Uses darkness energy to surround the 20 meters around the target, attacking the target spirit, causing them to release the hidden evil side in the hearts and enter the berserk status for 5 seconds, attacking everything around them furiously. Costs 200 MP, cooldown time, 60 seconds. Ding, your pet Ling'er's favorability towards you +1, current favorability, 15. After joining Ling Chen, Ling'er had never fought by his side before. Of course, the main reason was because Ling Chen had not asked her to join him in battle. Only after her favor ability reached 10 or above would she be willing to follow his orders in battle. In order to quickly increase her favor ability towards him, he had gone all out, and the results had been worth it. However, he could see that after reaching a favor ability of 10, the rate at which Ling Er's favor ability towards him could be increased became much, much slower. However, even so, Ling Chen was confident that he could raise her favor ability towards him to 20, closeness, within 1 month. From 30 to 39 was trusting, 40 to 49 was liking, 50 to 59 was affectionate, 60 to 69 was infatuation, and anything after that was pretty much a legend. After Ling Er reached LV-20, 3 of her active skills had been upgraded, and Sin Lock, which could cause the target to go into the berserk state, had been unlocked. Surprisingly, there had also been an increase in favor ability. Seeing that her own level had increased with her master's, Ling Er seemed very happy. Now, she didn't seem wary when Ling Chen approached her, and occasionally would voluntarily approach Ling Chen. When Ling Chen rode on the cloud-stepping mare, she would often sit behind him and lean on him as she listened. After Ling Chen brought her out from that place filled with the scent of death, every day was like heaven for her. Ding, your pet Holy Spirit beast, Xiao Hui, has leveled up to LV-20, HP plus 200, MP plus 5, Defense plus 20. Holy Spirit's shield, has leveled up to LV-2, Holy Spirit's aura, has leveled up to LV-5, Holy Spirit's gift, has leveled up to LV-2. Holy Spirit's shield, current level, LV-2, highest level, LV-5, level required to upgrade to LV-3, LV-40. An invisible shield that is always protecting around the surroundings of the Holy Spirit beast's body, can forcibly decrease all damage received by 40%. When HP is higher than 60%, will not die after receiving a lethal blow, and HP will be reserved at 1. HP recovers 5% every second, after death can directly revive on the spot, HP will recover to max, will not have any losses, can revive 3 times a day. Holy Spirit's aura, current level, LV-5, highest level, LV-20, level required to upgrade to LV-6, LV-25, using its Holy Spirit aura that is void of evil and impurity to seek the protection of Mother Nature, upgrades the innate gifts of itself and all companions. Effect, luck plus 5 and comprehension plus 5 of itself along with the master and all pet companions. Effect exists even while not summoned. Holy Spirit's gift, current level, LV-2, highest level, LV-5, level required to upgrade to LV-3, LV-40. Using Holy Spirit force to bless the master, increasing the level of all of her skills. Effect, level of all skills of master plus 2, ineffective towards skills that are already max level, directly takes effect towards new skills that appear later. Effect exists even while not summoned. After leveling up to LV-20, not only did Xiao Hui benefit, but Ling Chen also received massive benefits through Xiao Hui's skills. Ding, because of your pet Xiao Hui's, Holy Spirit's aura, your luck has risen to 12, and your comprehension has risen to 12. Ding, because of your pet Xiao Hui's skill, Holy Spirit's gift, your skill, Soul Sacrifice, has leveled up to LV-4, max level, Heaven Wind Technique, has leveled up to LV-4, Item Manipulation Technique, has leveled up to LV-4, Lucky Hand, has leveled up to LV-3, War God Technique, has leveled up to LV-4, Ling Tian Slash, has leveled up to LV-7, Ling Tian Burst, has leveled up to LV-6, for Corner Star Formation, has leveled up to LV-6, Battle Soul Possession, has leveled up to LV-3. Ding, because your comprehension has exceeded 10, and your spirit is extremely strong, the max level, Soul Sacrifice, can be evolved into the evolved skill, Soul Demise. Apart from skills that could not be leveled up, all of Ling Chen's skills had increased by 1 level. This was an incredible boost to his overall battle power. Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's shield was a ridiculously strong defensive skill, while Holy Spirit's gift was undoubtedly his strongest support skill. The LV2 Holy Spirit's gift caused all of Ling Chen's skills to level up twice. With such an overpowered boost, no one would even believe such a skill existed. Ling Chen was overjoyed, and patted Xiao Hui's head. He opened up his stats page, and looked at his skills: Soul Sacrifice, current level, LV4, max level, an impasse skill that uses your life and soul as an offering in exchange for the most extreme attack strength. Only people with a strong mind and conviction can unlock and trigger it. After activating HP equals 1, physical attack strength plus 400%, magic attack strength plus 400%, the use of any skill has no consumption, including HP and MP consumption, duration, 20 seconds, and cannot be stopped while in use, cannot use any method of HP recovery. Cooldown time, 180 seconds. Lucky Hand, current level, LV3, highest level, LV5, SP to upgrade to LV4, 300,000, after reaching LV5, the skill will automatically evolve into True Lucky Hand. A godly skill that comes from the treasure creature Lucky Cat. This skill allows the user to use an unseen hand to steal away the target's money without the target noticing. Within range, the user can steal 40% to 60% of the target's money. The success rate is affected by the target's level, grade and luck. Base success rate for stealing is luck x 6%. Being able to steal without being detected is also affected by the target's level, grade and luck. Base success rate for not being detected is luck x 6%. Consumes 10 MP, cooldown time, 8 seconds. Heaven Wind Technique, current level, LV5, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV6, 5000. Ancient Battle Technique, after practice it can greatly increase the ability to control any weapon. Effect: when using any weapon, damage dealt is increased by 25%. Effect does not stack with other weapon proficiency skills. Item Manipulation Technique, current level, LV4, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV5, 3600. Ancient Battle Technique, after practice equipment that surpasses your current level can be equipped. Effect: ignores any piece of equipment's level requirement by 4 levels. War God Technique, current level, LV4, highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV5, 5000. Powerful battle technique originating from War God's soul force, after practice can greatly increase personal attack strength permanently. Effect: strength increases by 4*x points, physical attack damage increased by 10*x, x equals current level. Ling Tian / current level, LV7 highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV8, 1600. Using the weapon in the hand to attack a single enemy, suddenly releasing the strength of the battle's soul the instant you hit the enemy, dealing devastating damage towards the opponent. Effect: single target attack, damage is equal to 270% of regular attacks, critical hit chance plus 15%, 5% chance of stunning for 3 to 5 seconds, very high chance of pushing back the target, MP consumption, 20, cooldown time, 0, Ling Tian burst, current level, LV6, highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV7, 1000. Pouring the battle's soul power into the weapon, instantly releasing it when slashing forward, creating a power explosion in a small area, attacking all targets in a 6-meter area in front, damage is equal to 160% of regular attacks, MP consumption, 30, cooldown time, 0, for corners star formation, current level, LV6, highest level, LV10, SP required to upgrade to LV7, 2200. Using the power of the battle soul to sweep the surroundings, instantly forming a formation of destruction in a 10-meter radius around yourself. The raging battle soul power will deal devastating damage towards all targets within the formation. Damage is equal to 550% of regular damage, critical hit rate plus 15%, 100% chance to trigger knockback, MP consumption, 100, cooldown time, 60 seconds. Battle Soul Possession, current level, LV3, highest level, LV5, SP required to upgrade to LV4, 4000. Igniting the Battle Soul, releasing all of your strength causing you next attack to possess the most extreme destructive power. Effect, damage plus 100% for next attack, absolute critical hit, for the next attack, MP consumption, 70, cooldown time, 30 seconds. Ling Chen, oh. This was a skill that completely ignored defense, and took away a certain amount of HP and MP from the target. There was even a possibility of instantly killing the target. Ignoring level, grade and absolute defense, that meant even though he was still incredibly weak, he could still take away 3% of a Saint Destroyer beast's HP instantly. Moreover, there would even be a 0.3% chance of instantly killing a Saint Destroyer beast. Soul Demise, what an overpowered skill. Soul Demise's highest level was LV30. Given the current scaling with its level, that meant that at max level, it would be able to instantly take away 30% of the target's HP and MP, as well as have a 3% chance of instantly killing the target. Ling Chen's heart began to thump. Back when he had received Soul Sacrifice, he had been completely shocked, and almost couldn't believe that such a terrifying skill existed. This Soul Demise was much, much scarier than Soul Sacrifice. When facing weaker opponents, its effects were almost negligible. However, when facing stronger opponents, especially those that were overpoweringly stronger, this skill gave Ling Chen an incredible amount of hope. Right now, Soul Demise was only LV3, so the 0.3% chance of instantly killing the target was not too useful. The more powerful a skill, the more difficult it would be to level it up. Seeing the required amount of SP to level up Soul Demise to LV4, Ling Chen exhaled slowly. Leveling to LV4 required a whole 100,000 SP. If he wanted to level up this skill to LV30, he would need an astronomical amount of SP. However, he was sure that spending that much SP to get Soul Demise to its max level would definitely be worth it. After all of his skills had leveled up, the amount of SP required to level them up again was simply ridiculous. After all, most of his skills were much stronger than normal skills, and he had the Heaven's Jealousy debuff. Seeing the SP required for each of the skills, Ling Chen could only sigh. What he wanted most right now was to level up to LV40, that way, Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's gift would be leveled up to LV3, and all of his skills would be leveled up once again. After sighing for a while, he let the girls know that he had reached LV20 through the guild channel, then continued to travel south. For the next period of time, he would be continuously heading south without stopping to train. As each day passed, Ling was running out of time. Vermilion Bird City. I must reach there quickly. Another 5 days went by. During those 5 days, Ling Chen spent all of his time traveling south. When encountering any monsters, he would casually wipe them out, see what Xiao Hui refined from their corpses, and continue moving. After passing by a small stream, Ling Chen took out his map, and checked where he was. This area was marked with light green. This color meant that this area was very safe. There would rarely be any monsters in such places, much less strong monsters. Ling Chen looked into the distance, and saw a gigantic forest, and the ground was covered in lush green grass. The leaves of the trees were all jade green, and the air was incredibly refreshing and vitalizing. Ling Chen breathed deeply and looked at the name of this forest. Fairy Forest. Next to this name, there was a fairly long description. Fairy Forest, a vast forest that, under the protection of nature, has never been polluted or experienced any warfare before. The most beautiful and pure race of the Forgotten Continent reside here, the Fairy Clan. Legends say that this was where the Fairy Clan originated. The fairies are beautiful, kind, diligent, courageous and peaceful. They despise uncleanliness and warfare. Fairies are born with the power of nature, and are excellent archers and priests from birth. They use the power given to them by nature to protect themselves and the peace of the Forgotten Continent. Fairies originally lived all throughout the Forgotten Continent, in closeness with humans. However, because the humans often engaged in warfare and selfish killing, resulting in countless deaths, they decided to distance themselves from humans, and reside in the fairy forest. The fairy forest is covered by a bewildering formation, which makes it almost impossible for outsiders to discover the fairy clan. There was also a note: over the years, I've tried many times to enter the legendary fairy realm. However, I've never been able to find even a sliver of a clue, which is very disappointing. It's probably because of the bewildering formation that I am never able to find my way to the fairies. However, I am completely certain that the fairies do live in the fairy forest. Fairy clan? Ling Chen looked at the forest in front of him again. Back at the novice village, the village chief had mentioned the fairy clan. Apparently fairies were creatures birthed by nature, and were the purest creatures in the entire world. The fairy clan was not a very large clan, and their reproducing ability was quite low. Ling Chen also remembered that he had heard about the fairy clan at the Lonely Spirit Ridge as well. Apparently the Moon God clan, Golden Crow and the fairy clan had joined forces in vanquishing the Demon Beast clan. However, the battle resulted in the fairy clan suffering heavy losses, causing their clan to go on the decline. This map was drawn by Tian Gun. Although he had traveled across nearly every inch of the Forgotten Continent, he was still unable to find any clue as to how to enter the fairy forest. It seemed impossible that anyone else could possibly enter it either. Only by completely separating themselves from the rest of the world could they enjoy true peace. Other creatures, whether they were humans, beasts, demons, they were all intrinsically selfish and greedy. The fairies were willing to help them and become closer with them, but what they received in return every time was simply cruelty and ill will. After experiencing this many times, the fairies decided to separate themselves from the world. This was completely understandable and expected. Although Ling Chen was curious, he was not that interested in the fairy clan. Ling Chen closed his map, and spurred the cloud-stepping mare onwards. Since there was no danger ahead, he could relax and travel at full speed. The boundary of the fairy forest had many colorful flowers and grasses, as well as dancing butterflies, creating an extraordinarily beautiful scene. On his journey, he had passed through many forests, but none could compare to this one. It was as if he had entered some mystical realm. So beautiful, even Ling'er couldn't help but gasp in amazement. She hugged the doll in her arms, and pointed it forwards. Look, so beautiful. This entire time, Ling'er had been listening to Ling Chen tell her stories, as well as talking with Ling Chen. Ling'er's ability to speak had improved markedly. Although she still had difficulty talking sometimes, it was not as severe as before. After staring at her surroundings for a while, she stretched out her hands and pulled on Ling Chen's clothes. Master, can you tell me a story? A bead of cold sweat trickled down Ling Chen's forehead. These days, he had adamantly refused to take the initiative to tell Ling'er stories. What he feared most was Ling'er asking him to tell her stories. Ling Chen, unable to refuse, could only reply bitterly, "What does Ling'er want to listen to?" "Snow White." Ling'er immediately replied. If he remembered correctly, he had already told Ling'er Snow White's story 7 times. This would be the 8th time. After hearing it so many times, Ling'er could probably tell him the story word for word, and yet she still liked to hear it so much. Girls were indeed very hard to understand. Ling Chen sighed inwardly, and started to tell the story. Once upon a time, there was a girl called Snow White. She had an evil stepmother, who was a witch. "No, it's Queen, Ling'er softly protested. "Oh, right, it's Queen." The Queen was envious of Snow White's beauty, so she wanted to kill her, and became a witch. Ling'er loved to listen to stories, and would beg Ling Chen to tell her stories every day. She would only be satisfied after listening to 5 or so stories. After telling her the nth story of the day, Ling Chen was starting to have a headache. It had been about an hour since he found out that he was in the fairy forest, and with Xiao Hui guiding the way, he didn't have to worry about getting lost. The horn on Xiao Hui's head flashed, and Xiao Hui's eyes flew open. He howled, and jumped down from the cloud-stepping mare, and ran in front of a tree. This was the 3rd time Xiao Hui had done this after entering the fairy forest. Of course, Ling Chen followed him immediately. Where Xiao Hui had stopped, he found, buried in the ground, a stone-like object that was about as big as his fist. Rainbow agate. Rainbow agate is the highest quality of agate. It is incredibly smooth, with vibrant colors, and is clear as crystal. It can only form in places of utmost purity, without any pollution. In the Forgotten Continent, out of 300,000 pieces of agate, only about 1 will be a rainbow agate. It is incomparably priceless, and can be used to create sculptures, accessories and equipment. This was the 3rd piece of rainbow agate that Ling Chen had found in the fairy forest. These 3 pieces of rainbow agate were all discovered by Xiao Hui, and they had always been buried under trees or grass. From the description, it seemed that rainbow agate were the highest quality and rarest type of agate. However, after entering the fairy forest for less than an hour, he had already obtained 3. The fairy forest was incredibly pure and unpolluted, which fitted the requirements for the formation of rainbow agate. However, this didn't mean that there would be large quantities of rainbow agate in this forest. Rather, it was because Xiao Hui's treasure-finding abilities were incredibly keen. It seemed that everything that caught Xiao Hui's interest was either rare or valuable. Xiao Hui did not even bother going after things that were ordinary or common. I wonder how much money I could sell these things for when I get back to the Azure Dragon City. Ling Chen mused to himself as he looked at the rainbow agate in his hand. The fortune Xiao Hui had brought to him was simply staggering. As long as he had Xiao Hui, he would never have to worry about being poor. All of the things that Xiao Hui found could cause someone to become rich overnight. The Forgotten Continent was incredibly vast, so it was bound to contain countless treasures. The only thing that was lacking was people with the ability to discover them. The rarer and more valuable a treasure was, the more difficult it would be to discover it. Many people would live their entire lives just meters from a treasure trove, but would not realize it. In contrast, Xiao Hui had incredible treasure-finding skills. More accurately, it was like the treasures were discovering Xiao Hui. Even if Xiao Hui was sleeping, as soon as he got close to a treasure, his horn would start to shine. Just like Qiyu said, if other people found out that Xiao Hui had this ability, they would risk everything to steal him away. It seems that there are quite a lot of treasures in this forest. Xiao Hui, let's keep going, and see if we can find anything else as well. Ling Chen said as he put away the rainbow agate. Woof woof. Xiao Hui nodded his head, and prepared to jump onto the cloud-stepping mare's back. At this moment, his horn once again glowed, and he froze. Seeing the light, Ling Chen couldn't help but laugh. There's more treasure around here? Xiao Hui wagged his tail, and ran around in circles. When facing towards the west, the gray glow would become brighter. After doing this a few times, Xiao Hui barked, and charged westwards. Once again, Ling Chen chased after him. The further Xiao Hui ran, the brighter his horn became. After running for about 50 meters, Xiao Hui stopped, and stood completely still, staring forwards. In front of him, was an incredibly tall tree that was about 1 meter in diameter. Xiao Hui did not dig, but rather stood completely motionless, staring at the tree. Under this tree? Ling Chen asked. If the treasure was underneath this tree, things would be problematic. It would be very difficult to take away things from underneath this tree. Xiao Hui did not reply. He wagged his tail, walked forward a few steps, and stretched out his paw. He patted the tree with his paw, letting out a puffing sound. "What is it, Xiao Hui?" Xiao Hui was behaving very strangely. It didn't seem like he had found any treasure, but it didn't seem as if there was any danger either. Ling Chen called back the cloud-stepping mare and walked over. Xiao Hui used his paw to pat the tree many times, and ignored Ling Chen. It was as if he was thinking about something. Afterwards, he took a few steps back, and stood about half a meter in front of the tree for a few seconds. Afterwards, he began to start running around the tree. Once, twice, 3 times. Ling Chen stared as Xiao Hui ran around the tree 3 times in a clockwise direction. Xiao Hui then stopped, and ran around the tree once, anti-clockwise. Ling Chen was stunned, and was just about to ask Xiao Hui what he was doing, when suddenly Xiao Hui jumped up towards the tree. It looked like Xiao Hui was going to crash into the tree, but at the moment when Xiao Hui should have made impact with the tree, he suddenly disappeared. Xiao Hui. Ling Chen was shocked, and quickly ran over. He touched the place where Xiao Hui had disappeared. He could feel the hard bark of the tree, but Xiao Hui definitely had disappeared there, as if he had been eaten by the tree. What was going on? Ling Chen frowned, and stared at the tree. He thought back to what Xiao Hui had done, and copied Xiao Hui's movements. Ling Chen ran around the tree 3 times clockwise, then 1 time anti-clockwise. He then breathed in, and ran towards the tree and jumped. As he flew nearer and nearer to the tree, Ling Chen forced himself to keep his eyes open. Just as he was about to hit the tree, his vision blurred, and he felt as if the world was turning upside down. He had not crashed into the tree, but landed on his feet and stumbled forwards. He looked behind him, whether it was behind him, or anywhere around him, the tree was nowhere to be seen. His surroundings were completely different to that from before. Although there were trees and flowers everywhere, it definitely wasn't the same place. What was going on? Where was this? Was this still the fairy forest? Woof woof. Ling Chen looked down, and saw Xiao Hui by his feet. Xiao Hui woofed at Ling Chen a few times, then started running towards the south. Ling Chen took out his map, looked at his position, and found that he was still within the fairy forest. However, his position had shifted at least 5 kilometers from where he was previously. He frowned, and followed after Xiao Hui. After a short while, Xiao Hui stopped in front of a large bush. He then jumped in and out, in and out. He did this 3 times, and disappeared once again. Ling Chen had calmed down by now, and copied Xiao Hui's actions. Once again, his vision blurred, it felt as if the world had been turned upside down. The large bush disappeared, and in front of him was a large lake. Ling Chen took out his map, but found that there was no lake marked on the map. This meant that Qian Gun had never been to this place before. He was now in the southwest region of the fairy forest, once again quite far from his original position. Xiao Hui continued to run. He ran to the edge of the lake, then stopped at a stop. He stayed there for a while, then jumped up and down 3 times. He then jumped into the water and disappeared once again. Ling Chen now understood that within the fairy forest, there were so special teleportation channels. Once the teleportation channel was activated, they would be sent to another location. The actions Xiao Hui did activated these teleportation channels, but Ling Chen had no way of knowing how Xiao Hui knew how to activate these teleportation channels. Once again, Ling Chen repeated Xiao Hui's actions. He wondered where this mysterious teleportation channel would send him. Despite jumping into the lake, he was not wet in the slightest. He had instead arrived at a place where trees grew incredibly densely together. Ling Chen continued to follow Xiao Hui and follow his actions, and was continuously teleported all over the place. Sometimes it was to the north, sometimes it was towards the southeast, sometimes it was towards the southwest. There was no pattern to these teleportation channels, and after 10 or so times, Ling Chen was incredibly dizzy. In these 10 or so times, the way of activating these teleportation channels was different every time, but Xiao Hui always managed to find a way to activate them. After the 17th time. Over time, Ling Chen became more and more used to being teleported by the teleportation channels. However, this time, when he saw his new surroundings, his eyes widened. The forest was gone. In front of him was a world of brightly colored flowers and grasses. The grass was green and lush, and there were hundreds of different types of flowers. They were all of different colors, and were incredibly beautiful. It was as if there was a sea of flowers and grass in front of him. Ling Chen stood motionless and speechless as he took in this sight in front of him. This was a scene that he felt could only be seen in heaven. Ling Chen couldn't resist but raise his wrist and take a photo of this scene, his heart unable to remain calm. Within this sea of flowers and grass, there was a narrow path stretching into the distance, cutting this sea in half. Ling Chen was currently standing on this path. Where was this? Ding, you have discovered the hidden map, Fairy Realm, Fame plus 100. Holy crap, was this the fairy realm where the fairy clan supposedly lives, the place that Qian Gun simply couldn't find? My goodness. Although a small part of Ling Chen was expecting this, the system announcement still shocked him. This was the home of the clan that had disappeared long, long ago, and had almost been forgotten by the rest of the Forgotten Continent. After separating themselves from all other races, no one had ever seen a fairy. Qian Gun had lived for countless years, and had traveled to countless places, but could not find the fairy realm no matter how hard he tried. And yet, Ling Chen had inadvertently found it, rather, it was Xiao Hui who had brought him here. Were Xiao Hui's actions from before the steps in unlocking the bewildering formation mentioned by Qian Gun? Was this unimaginably beautiful place the home of the fairies? It was as beautiful as a celestial realm here. If Shui Ruo came here, she would definitely love it so much that she would never leave. Ling Chen decided that since he had come all the way here, he had no reason to leave without taking a look around. What would the fairies look like? Although the fairies were very secretive and mysterious, they were by nature very kind and loved the nature, so he wasn't too worried. Ling Chen looked at Xiao Hui, who had easily gotten past the bewildering formation, sighed in admiration in his heart. He began to walk forwards while admiring the view. As he walked, Ling Chen would also take photos of what he was seeing. After walking for a long time, he still could not see the end of the path. With Xiao Hui walking in front of him, Ling Chen did not have to worry about getting lost or encountering any danger. After 10 minutes, Ling Chen stopped walking, and looked to the side. He heard a sound, it sounded like a young girl singing. La la la, la la la, I am the happy Cai'Er, I love my granny, I love my dad, I love my big sister, I love singing, I love bees, I love butterflies, I love collecting pollen. Cai'Er's the cutest, Cai'Er's the best, la la la, Ling Chen. The voice was very sweet and pleasant to the ear, and was coming closer and closer. It evidently sounded like it came from a little girl. Very soon, Ling Chen saw the source of the singing. Amidst the countless flowers and grasses, there was a figure dressed in blue. There was also a small pair of wings on the figure's back that were flapping, that's right, wings. The wings were not like that of a bird, but rather like that of a butterfly's or cicadas. This girl with wings, could she be a fairy? The girl was flying and dancing around above the flowers, and her hands would pass over flowers as she flew by. Ling Chen's eyes widened. He had thought the girl was quite far away, which was why she looked so small. However, the singing seemed to be coming from right next to him. She was only about 20 meters away, but still seemed extremely small. Apart from her wings, she looked exactly like what a normal human girl looked like, except that she was only about half a meter tall. So this was what fairies looked like. La la la, la la la, I am the happy Cai'Er, I love my granny, I love my dad, I love my big sister, I love singing, When she was about 10 meters away, the little fairy finally noticed Ling Chen. She abruptly stopped singing, and quickly flew in front of Ling Chen. She looked at him up and down in shock and curiosity. After coming close, Ling Chen could clearly see what this little fairy girl looked like. Indeed, she was only half a meter tall, and was wearing a blue dress. She only looked about 12 or 13 years old, and her face was as cute as Leng'er's most beautiful doll. She had long, black hair, and her eyes shone like stars. Her ears were exactly the same as a normal human's. There was no sign of the pointedness that stories claimed they had. Simply put, this fairy was exactly the same as a normal human, except that she had wings and was much, much smaller. La la la, big brother, you're so tall. It's so strange, why hasn't Cai'Er seen you before? And the clothes you're wearing are so strange as well. The fairy girl looked at him with her bright eyes. The fairy clan was not very big, and their reproductive ability was quite poor. Over the past thousands of years, the fairy clan's numbers had been decreasing every year. The reason was quite simple. The number of male fairies that were born greatly exceeded the number of female fairies, and female fairies could only give birth once. Before, the male fairies would often marry human females. However, after the fairies separated themselves from the other races, this could not happen anymore. Thus, although the fairies lived for a long time, their numbers continually decreased. As a result, seeing someone that she didn't recognize would be very strange. Ling Chen clearly understood that he was pretty much a trespasser, and that he would be rejected by this fairy clan. However, this little fairy looked very naive and innocent, as well as very gullible. He quickly thought of a good answer, and was about to speak, when the little fairy suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Ah, no wings, no smell of nature, weird clothing, why you're not a fairy. You're one of those, humans. Ling Chen, the little fairy's face was full of fear, as if she believed that this human was going to swallow her whole. With a swish, her little body retreated far away, and after a green glow flashed, a bow appeared in her hands. She stretched the bow, and a green-colored elemental arrow appeared, pointing at Ling Chen. After finding out that he was a human, her reaction was even worse than what Ling Chen had expected. It seemed that the humans were very despised by the fairies. He quickly said, I am a human, but I accidentally came here. I'm not a bad person, and I won't hurt you. The little fairy was incredibly wary towards him, and her little face became very serious. Granny said that although humans look like us, but they're the worst creatures in the whole world, and they love to tell lies. Humans definitely can't be trusted, and can't be allowed to enter our home. Otherwise, our clan will suffer terrible consequences. Quickly leave here. Otherwise I'm going to attack. The little fairy's face was extremely concentrated, and her hand was shaking. Evidently, she had never fought before. Despite this, her serious and concentrated face and expression were incredibly cute, and did not seem threatening at all. Ling Chen could only helplessly reply, Little sister, what you said is quite wrong. Sure, there are bad humans, but there are also, Granny wouldn't lie to me. The little fairy furiously retorted back, hurry up and leave, otherwise I'm really going to start to attack. I'm really not a bad person, and I didn't come here on purpose. If you don't believe me, halfway through his sentence, the little fairy released her arrow, and the green elemental arrow shot towards him. Damn, she's really attacking? Seeing that they were being attacked, Xiao Hui immediately entered battle mode. The information regarding this fairy girl entered Ling Chen's mind. Cai'Er, type, fairy, grade, celestial, level, 42, HP, 1,560,000, the second daughter of the current chief of the fairy clan. She is incredibly pure and innocent. With a pure heart and great talent, she was born at the celestial grade. Out of the entire clan, she has the highest affinity with nature, and is this generation's maiden of nature. As such, she is seen as the fairy clan's hope. Like her clansmen, she has never left the fairy realm before, and is fearful of the unknown outer world. Passive abilities: Nature's Blessing, a fairy-only passive ability. When using arrow attacks, hit plus 280%, arrow speed plus 50%, range plus 50%. When using healing and support magic, effectiveness plus 50%. Nature's Protection, a fairy-only passive ability. Apart from poison, resistance to all abnormal statuses is greatly increased. Apart from the darkness element, resistance to all elements is greatly increased. Recovers 5000 HP and 500 MP every second. Fairy's Elegy, a skill that belongs only to Cai'Er. Within 1 hour of dying, any other fairy can give up their lives in exchange for reviving Cai'Er. Attacks: Ultimate Attack. Weakness: weak to poison attacks. The little fairy's level was so high that Xiao Hui's Eye of the Holy Spirit could only reveal part of the information about her. However, just this information alone caused Ling Chen to be greatly shocked. This little fairy in front of him, who still looked like a little girl, was a celestial-grade creature, and was even LV-42. Moreover, she was the fairy chief's daughter, as well as the Maiden of Nature, which seemed like an important status. The first fairy he had met had actually turned out to have such an important background. Swish! The attack from a LV-42 celestial-grade fairy was not to be underestimated. The arrow greatly exceeded the speed at which arrows normally flew, and Ling Chen barely dodged it. After Xiao Hui's Eye of the Holy Spirit had leveled up to LV-2, it could now tell Ling Chen an enemy's weakness. It seemed that fairy's weakness was poison attacks, but none of Ling Chen's attacks could apply the poison status. Moreover, even if he did have poison attacks, he still wouldn't be willing to use them on this little fairy. After dodging the attack, Ling Chen hurriedly called out, "Little sister, I'm really not a bad person." Apart from this, there was nothing else he could say. Granny said that humans can't be trusted. If you're not a bad person, immediately leave from here. If you don't leave, swish. Another arrow shot towards Ling Chen. However, these 2 arrows were very ordinary arrows. Evidently, because of this fairy's kind nature, she was unwilling to use any attacks that could actually harm him. Otherwise, with her LV-42 celestial grade power, it would be incredibly easy to destroy Ling Chen. Ling Chen once again dodged, and frowned. He bent his legs, and shot forwards. Although she was a super powerful LV-42 celestial grade fairy, but she was still a little girl. I don't believe that as a man, I'm unable to subdue a little girl. Note from the author, Ling Chen's second profession is about to appear. You definitely won't be able to guess what sort of profession it is. By this time, Ling Chen had already reached the little fairy. However, he did not take out his weapons, despite having such a good opportunity to attack. Attacking in this sort of situation was an absolute taboo. Instead, he looked at her, and helplessly said, "Little sister, you can't move right now. Just then, you were attacking me, so if I'm a bad person, I'd be attacking you right now, right? See, I'm not doing anything at all. Yes, there are lots of bad humans, but not every single human is bad. A long time ago, humans and fairies were good friends. Did your granny tell you this?" While Ling Chen was speaking, moon shadow's effects ended, and the little fairy regained control over her body. She immediately retreated, and said in a small voice, What just happened? Why couldn't I move?" Ling Chen, but, the little fairy continued to talk as she put away her bow, "You don't seem like a bad person. Otherwise, you would have attacked me just then. La la la, Granny did tell me that a very long time ago, our fairy clan was good friends with humans, but there were a lot of bad humans, so are you a good human then?" "That's right, you're very smart," Ling Chen smilingly said. Children were indeed easy to win over. "Wait, no. Cai'Er started to shake her head. Her little face became serious again. Whether you're a good human or a bad human, you're still not allowed to come into this place. You should quickly leave here, otherwise, even if you're a good human, Cai'Er, who are you talking to? A woman's voice that was soft as clouds and gentle as a breeze sounded out. Cai'Er blinked, and her tensed-up face relaxed, and happily smiled. Big sis, I'm over here. A big sister? Ling Chen looked around, but he couldn't see any other fairies. Suddenly he saw that a white light appeared behind Cai'Er, and a woman's figure appeared within the light. This figure looked exactly like a normal human woman, except that it also had a pair of cicada's wings. Indeed, it was another fairy. Big sis. Cai'Er happily flew over, and jumped into the woman's arms. The scene of the woman hugging Cai'Er looked like a mother hugging her young daughter. The woman's beautiful eyes looked over and rested on Ling Chen. As their eyes met, Ling Chen saw that this woman was incredibly beautiful as Shura. This woman reminded him of clouds, and was dressed in a pure white silk garment. All of her features were simply perfect, whether it was her dazzling white skin, beautiful eyes, small and cute nose, or her cherry-colored lips. Her beauty was not one of seductiveness, but rather, one that emanated purity and kindness. She was almost too perfect for this world. After seeing her face, Ling Chen was simply unable to look away. It seemed that the saying that fairies were the most beautiful creatures in the world was very, very true. The little fairy Cai'Er was very pretty and cute, but this woman seemed like a goddess. Were all fairy women as beautiful as her? While still in shock, Xiao Hui had already transmitted the information regarding this woman to him. Ying Xue, type, fairy, grade, Heaven's End, level, HP, the eldest daughter of the current fairy chief. Unable to display any other information. Passive abilities? Attacks? Ultimate attack? Weaknesses? Ling Chen received another shock. This young, incredibly beautiful fairy woman, she was actually Heaven's End grade. The random little girl he had bumped to had turned out to be a celestial grade creature, and this beautiful woman was a Heaven's End grade creature. It seemed that the fairies were not only beautiful, but incredibly powerful as well. Moreover, from Xiao Hui's information, it seemed that this fairy woman was the little fairy Cai'Er's blood sister, and their father was the fairy chief. What sort of luck was this? Meeting two fairy princesses the first time he had come to this fairy realm. Big sis, he's a human, one of those humans that Granny told us about. This is the first time Cai'Er's ever seen a human, but he doesn't seem like he's a bad human, so what should we do? Should we tell Dad or Granny? It seemed that Cai'Er was very dependent on her big sister. Once her big sister had arrived, all of her worries and anxiety seemed to have melted away. The fairy woman and Ling Chen looked at each other. Hearing what Cai'Er had to say, her lips moved. Human. This woman was called Ying Xue, and looked about as old as he was. And yet, this woman who looked about the same age as himself, was of the Heaven's End grade. If she wanted to kill Ling Chen, it would be as easy as killing an ant. Ling Chen never thought that within this realm, the first Heaven's End creature he met would be this young, goddess-like woman. After finding out that Ling Chen was a human, her reaction was abnormally calm. Because the fairy clan had been sealed away from the rest of the world for thousands of years, this woman shouldn't have ever seen a human before. Her reaction upon seeing one should have been one of shock, something like what her little sister had displayed. However, the only reaction that Ling Chen saw was that her eyes momentarily widened, but she immediately regained her calm composure. Her eyes were like an abyss. After looking into her eyes, Ling Chen could feel a sense of pressure bearing down on him. The pressure from a Heaven's End creature was not to be underestimated. This feeling told Ling Chen that it would only take a moment for this woman to destroy him. He wouldn't even have the chance to run. The fairy clan was indeed very powerful. No wonder the Moon God clan had requested the fairy clan to help them when fighting the Demon Beast clan. Not only was Ying Xue's reaction extremely calm, but her actions were also brisk and decisive. Seeing this outsider who had entered her home, she had not panicked, and had not shown any curiosity. Instead, she slowly stretched out her jade-white palm, with a jade bracelet on her wrist. She quietly asked, "Tell me how you got here." Her voice was so soft and gentle that it sounded like a girl confessing to a boy who she loved. No one would be able to resist it and lie to her. Ying Xue's voice even caused Ling Chen's body to relax, and he calmly replied, "I don't know how I got here either. I was walking along in the fairy forest, and somehow got here." The woman's expression remained calm, and her voice was still as gentle as the wind. "Since it's like that, I'll send you out from here. This is not a place where humans should come, so do not try to come here again. Also, don't tell anyone else about this place. You can go now." As she spoke, the jade bracelet on the girl's wrist shone, and a warm, white light landed on Ling Chen. Although their distance was not too far apart, and the white glow was not traveling too quickly, Ling Chen definitely could have easily avoided it. However, Ling Chen swayed, and was not able to dodge it. As soon as the white glow touched him, it encapsulated his entire body. Because he could not sense any danger from this white glow, he had reacted a moment too late. The moment the white glow touched his body, a system announcement sounded out in his ears, "Ding, you have been locked onto by the skill Nature's Ring. After 10 seconds, you will be transported 500 kilometers away. Goddamn, email protected, $%. The system announcement caused Ling Chen, who was pondering how to enter the inner regions of the fairy realm, to nearly jump up in shock. Although he had not received any damage from the white glow, he would be transported 500 kilometers away. Human, Nature's Ring will send you to a place far away. I hope that you won't come here again, because this is not a place where you should be. Cai'Er, let's go." After the woman finished talking, she turned to leave. 10 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds. Ling Chen frowned. Although this woman was as beautiful as a goddess, although she was a powerful Heaven's End grade creature, although he was technically trespassing onto their territory, but to be controlled by her like this left a sour taste in his mouth. Ling Chen was naturally a proud person, so after leaving heaven and hell, he had always been in control of himself and others. He slowly let out a breath, and his gaze rested on the fairy woman called Ying Xue. "Since you fairies don't like humans, then, I'll give you another reason not to like humans." Ling Chen's moon shadow now had a range of 20 meters. Because it was a skill that could be used immediately, even the Ying Xue and Cai'Er had no time to react before they were frozen by the skill. Ling Chen charged over and grabbed onto Cai'Er's small body, encapsulating her with the white light as well. The extremely calm Ying Xue's eyes revealed an expression of shock. Under the effects of moon shadow, she was unable to move, despite being of Heaven's End grade. The human male in front of her then extended out a finger, and gently touched her chin. The moment his finger came into contact with her skin, her emotions spun out of control. The fairy clan was the most loyal clan in the world. No matter if it was a male or female, all fairies would be loyal to one person, and would not let anyone else touch their bodies. Even if their other half died, they would still continue to love them in their hearts. Otherwise, if their bodies were touched by any other creature, they would feel that their bodies had been contaminated and polluted. Evidently, Ling Chen did not know any of this, and did not know how significant his actions would be on this fairy woman. "Little beauty, humans are very, very evil. Next time you meet humans, be careful," Ling Chen smilingly said as he used his lucky hand on the beautiful fairy woman. "Ding, the target does not have any money or gold. Because your luck exceeds 10, Lucky Hand's hidden effect has been triggered. When using Lucky Hand on a target with no money or gold, there is a certain chance of stealing an item away from the target. Ding, you have obtained the item Ying Xue's first wings. Ding, your Lucky Hand has not been detected by the target. Ling Chen was incredibly shocked. Lucky Hand had a hidden effect? When the target had no money, he could directly steal an item? However, Ling Chen did not know how lucky he had been. Ying Xue was of the Heaven's End grade, and her level was much, much higher than Ling Chen's. Under normal circumstances, even if he used the lucky hand on her 100 times, he probably would not have succeeded even once. However, Ying Xue had been frozen by Moon Shadow, Cai'Er had been held by Ling Chen within the effects of nature's ring, and Ling Chen touching her chin caused her heart and emotions to become incredibly flustered. As such, Ling Chen's lucky hand had succeeded without her noticing. The lucky hand's main function was to steal money. As such, the chance of stealing an item from a target who had no money was incredibly low. Being able to successfully steal away an item from a Heaven's End grade fairy on his first try was incredibly lucky of Ling Chen. Even if he tried another 100 times or even 1,000 times, it was unlikely that he would succeed again. First wings? What was that? However, Ling Chen had no time to think. The instant after the announcement told him that his lucky hand had succeeded, the Moon Shadow's effects ended, and the Nature's Ring's countdown hit 0. The white glow flashed brightly, and both Ling Chen and Cai'Er disappeared. Cai'Er. After regaining control over her body again, Ying Xue anxiously cried out. However, it was too late. Cai'Er, with the human, had been transported 500 kilometers away into the human world. After what had just happened with the human, Ying Xue's emotions were still in a wreck. Cai'Er had never left the fairy clan before, and a long time had passed since the fairy clan had separated themselves from the rest of the world. By now, none of the fairies had any idea what the outside world was like. And yet, Cai'Er had been sent to the outside world with that human. Ying Xue was feeling incredibly worried about her. After sighing, she turned around. As a gentle breeze blew past, her body seemed to turn into smoke and she disappeared. At the center of the fairy realm, under an ancient tree. What? A yell of surprise came out from the largest jade green house. Because it was so peaceful, this yell traveled very far, and many fairies stopped doing what they were doing and looked over. The fairy chief was always calm and gentle like water, and they very rarely heard him raise this voice. Had something terrible happened? The male looked about 40 years old, and had an air of geniality and dignity around him. The fairy realm had never been entered into by an outsider before. When they heard that Cai'Er had been taken away by an intruding human, they had been completely dumbfounded. Ying Xue gravely nodded her head, and told him what had happened. The middle-aged man frowned, and thought in silence for a while. He turned around, and slowly asked, "How did that human enter?" "He said he inadvertently found his way here." Ying Xue replied. "That's definitely impossible." The middle-aged man flicked his wrist. "Our clan is protected by nature's bewildering formation. No matter how powerful a creature is, it still cannot compare to the almighty nature. As such, it is impossible to forcefully destroy the bewildering formation. Plus, even if it was destroyed, we would have known. The other option, passing through the bewildering formation, is almost just as impossible. Making even one wrong move would send the person to a different location, making it impossible to find this place. It's impossible that the human inadvertently found his way here. It's very possible that he found a way to pass through the bewildering formation. So if he spreads the word about how to get here, then, exactly," the middle-aged man solemnly nodded, "Cai'Er is a maiden of nature, so she is always protected by nature. As such, rather than her safety, I'm more worried about this issue. What should we do then?" Ying Xue realized how serious this problem was. The middle-aged man thought for a while, then frowned. "Go to your grandmother, and gather all of the elders. We must quickly discuss what to do. Otherwise, our fairy clan could face destruction." "Roger." Ying Xue nodded, but did not immediately leave. She half opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something. Ying Xue, is there anything else? The middle-aged man asked. He knew that his daughter was normally extremely calm and collected. She would rarely seem like this. Ying Xue's chest slightly rose, and she slowly said, "Father, my first wings are gone." Eh? The middle-aged man revealed an expression of shock, which then turned into joy. "Ah, Xue, you finally found someone you like?" "Huh, I've always worried that because your personality is so calm, you wouldn't ever fall for a man. It seems that I've been worrying too much. Quick, tell me, which lucky man got your first wings? No matter who it is, I won't reject him, and will definitely do all I can to help you." Ying Xue gently bit her lips, and slowly shook her head. "Father, I didn't give my first wings to anyone. They simply just disappeared, and I have no idea what happened to them." "Disappeared?" The middle-aged man frowned. "Impossible. With your abilities, no one should be able to take away your first wings without your knowledge. I really don't know what happened." At this point, Ying Xue was unable to keep calm. She could only powerlessly shake her head. "When I was going out to find Cai'Er, I still had them." However, from when she had gone out to find Cai'Er till now, she had only met two people. One was Cai'Er, the other was that human. Cai'Er definitely couldn't have taken away her first wings, so it must have been. Ying Xue suddenly looked up, and anxiously said, "It was that human. He must have used some weird method to steal my first wings. At that time, our bodies had been frozen by a skill of his, so I'm sure that it was him." This was the first time the middle-aged man had seen his daughter lose control of her emotions. However, this was not surprising to him. A fairy woman's first wings were her most important item, even more precious than her own life. "I want to go home, I want to go home." "Wah!" The little fairy's face was completely covered by her tears. Ling Chen sat on a large rock, and helplessly said, "Stop crying. No matter how hard you cry, you can't immediately go back." As soon as this little fairy started crying, Ling Chen had already regretted his decision. Ling Chen was completely frustrated. He could only let the little fairy cry to her heart's content as he tried to work out where they were. They were in some kind of wilderness, with grasses and weeds growing everywhere, but it didn't seem like it was a place where people usually passed through. However, it didn't seem like there would be any monsters here either. He opened his map, and looked for his position. The map he had bought from Tian was no ordinary map. Not only was it incredibly detailed, but it could also tell him where his position was, even if Tian had never been there himself. Of course, the prerequisite was that it had to be on this map. After finding out where they were, Ling Chen was actually overjoyed. The place where the nature's ring had transported him was actually on the route to the Vermilion Bird City. Traveling from the fairy forest to here normally would have taken him about 10 or so days, so this transportation had saved him close to half a month's worth of time. From here, if he continued to head south, he would reach the Vermilion Bird City in less than half a month. So this was what they meant by "every cloud has a silver lining." But then again, nothing really terrible had happened. He had only been given a massive gift by that fairy. "Woo, you're laughing? You humans are all evil." While she was crying, the person who had brought her here not only did not comfort her, but stood there laughing, causing the little fairy to cry even harder. To have found out that he had reaped such rewards from that situation, Ling Chen immediately became much happier. However, hearing the little fairy wailing her head off, Ling Chen's head began to hurt. What should he do with this little fairy whom he had hot-headedly taken out with him? Surely he couldn't just abandon her. After all, she was just a little child in a completely unfamiliar world. Because of her different appearance, humans might start to investigate and experiment on her. It was him who had brought her out here, so it would be inhumane of him to just leave her by herself. Should he take her with him then? That was even worse. Taking this 0.5-meter tall fairy with wings with him wherever he went was sure to cause much trouble. After all, he couldn't put her in another dimension like what he did with pets, nor could she prevent anyone else from seeing her like Ling Chen could. Moreover, this little fairy called Cai'Er was the fairy clan's maiden of nature, and seemed to be very important to the fairies. Would what he did cause the fairies to charge out of the fairy realm looking for him? A little girl was already celestial grade, and a woman who looked similar in age to himself was heaven's end grade. The fairy clan was undoubtedly very powerful, so if he became their enemy, it definitely wouldn't turn out well for him. Thinking to hear, he knocked on his head. Why the hell had he done something so stupid? Ling Chen immediately changed his expression, and put on a good guy appearance. Little fairy, please stop crying. It was wrong of me to take you out from your home, but I'm really not a bad person. You're still saying you're not a bad person, you're definitely a bad person. Woo, Anne. I'm not called little fairy, I'm called Cai'Er. Woo, the little fairy corrected him as she continued to cry. Alright, Cai'Er. Ling Chen said, but please stop crying, otherwise you might cause a scary monster to come over. Did your granny tell you that in the outside world, there are lots of scary monsters that love to eat kids? If they hear kids crying, they will follow the sound of crying and then eat the kid. Wah, Ling Chen's words immediately had an effect. The little fairy was incredibly naive and gullible, and immediately stopped crying, her body curled up into a little ball. Inwardly, Ling Chen was quite shocked. This little fairy was celestial grade, and could pretty much destroy anything that she met. And yet, she had been scared into this state by a few of his words. Seeing how pitiful the little fairy looked, Ling Chen smiled and nodded, "And that's better. Remember, if you don't want to be eaten, don't cry." After speaking, Ling Chen turned around and started to walk. After Ling Chen walked about 10 steps away, the little fairy panicked, and chased after him. Where are you going?" "I'm going home, of course." Ling Chen casually replied. "You're not allowed to go." I'm so scared, woo." As she spoke, the little fairy started to cry again. To be left in the outside world that had been described as an incredibly scary place by her relatives, it was only natural that she would be scared out of her mind. "But Cai'Er says that I'm a bad person. If I'm a bad person, then I should stay away from Cai'Er," Ling Chen said as he continued to walk forwards. "You're not allowed to go. Not allowed to go." The little fairy hurriedly flew over, caught on to Ling Chen's clothes. "Woo. I'm so scared. You brought me here, so you can't just leave me by myself." Woo. Cai'Er's crying melted Ling Chen's heart. After all, it was him who had put her in this situation. Ling Chen turned around and looked at the little fairy, and slowly said, "All right, don't worry, I'm really not a bad person. I was just scaring you before. It was wrong of me to take you away from your home, so I'll take you home, okay?" Ling Chen's words caused Cai'Er's crying to die down. She sniffled, and tearily looked at Ling Chen. "Really? N. Come with me. In not too long, you can go home." Ling Chen nodded. If he didn't want to leave her by herself, the only thing he could do was to send her home. After all, it was impossible to keep her with him forever. He had to log off, eat and rest, but he couldn't do any of that if he had to leave Cai'Er by herself. In order to free himself, he would have to take her back to the fairy realm. He was very stone-hearted, and could take lives without even batting an eye. However, at times, he could also be soft-hearted. The little fairy nodded her head. Right now, she could only rely on Ling Chen. This place was very far from the fairy forest, and Ling Chen definitely wasn't willing to walk the whole way with Cai'Er. He took out his map, and found the nearest town, then started walking that way with Cai'Er. The nearest town wasn't too far away, it would only take them about half an hour to walk there. Perhaps it was because she was tired from crying, but Cai'Er gradually calmed down. As Ling Chen rode on the cloud-stepping mare, she would fly behind him like a butterfly, looking around her at their surroundings. Little kids were, after all, very curious to the world around them. Although the fairy realm was wonderful and beautiful, the outside world was mysterious and unknown, which made all fairies feel curious about it. As such, out of both curiosity and fear, the little Qai'Er would glance around her now and then. "Qai'Er, has no one in your clan ever exited the fairy realm before?" Ling Chen asked. "No one at all. They all say that the outside world is very scary, humans are very devious and evil, monsters are all cruel and bloodthirsty, demons are especially terrifying, our ancestors told us to never go to the outside world." Qai'Er earnestly replied as she looked around her. Her actions and expression were all very wary and alert. "To be honest, the outside world isn't that scary," Ling Chen casually said. Over all these years, the fairy clan had become used to living in separation from the rest of the world. This wasn't something that could be changed by saying a sentence or two. "I believe, you're not a bad person. If you take me home," Qai'Er pitifully said. Suddenly, she stopped, and shouted, "Humans, there are humans." In front of them, there was a person dressed like a farmer walking towards them, causing the little fairy to call out in shock. Ling Chen pointed behind him, "Hide behind me, he won't be able to see you." If it was her older sister Ying Xue, she would be able to retract her wings, and no one would be able to tell that she was a fairy. However, Qai'Er was simply too small. Even if she retracted her wings, it would still be blindingly obvious that she was not a human. The little fairy immediately hid behind Ling Chen, and pressed against his back. Ling Chen increased his speed, and passed by the farmer quickly. After a while, the little fairy patted her chest and let out a breath in relief. Ling Chen felt quite amused. With her strength as a celestial-grade creature, she could practically dominate the entire Forgotten Continent. And yet, she was cowering behind him because of a farmer. "Big brother, where are you? We're going to have lunch soon." As they neared the town, Ling Chen heard Shui Ruo's voice. He looked at the time and saw that it was nearly noon. He picked up his communication device and replied, Ruo, you can eat first with Tian. I'm unable to leave right now, and it might take a while before I can log off." If he left now, the little fairy would definitely cry her eyes out until he logged on again. "I see, then we'll eat first. Be careful, big brother. Oh, and by the way, Tian's already LV7, so fast, right? Our houses are all made using trees. Some are at the bottom of trees, some are in the middle of trees, some are at the top of trees. They're all very beautiful," Qai'Er replied. Ling Chen was speechless. "You guys can fly, so of course you would build wherever you wanted to. Plus, all that world has are trees, flowers and grasses, so it's not that strange that you'd build houses attached to trees." After thinking for a bit, Ling Chen took out a cloak and put it on. Cloaks were the best type of accessory to protect one's identity, just like the Sword Emperor. After all these years, no one knew that she was a woman. After putting on the cloak, Ling Chen said, "Qai'Er, you can hide inside this cloak. This way, no one will be able to see you." "Hide, inside there?" After realizing that he meant inside the cloak, Qai'Er furiously shook her head. No way, no way. Granny said that we can't get too close to men. If I hide in your clothes, I'll be very close to you, and, all right then." Ling Chen shrugged, "Then just follow behind me. However, as you know, you look completely different to humans. If you're discovered by any other humans, they might catch you and experiment on you. They might even sell you or feed you to some ferocious monsters. When that time comes, I won't be able to protect you." "Ah!" Qai'Er let out a small cry of fear, and her face became pale as a sheet. She quickly dove into Ling Chen's cloak. Even when she was inside the cloak, she still couldn't help but tremble. "That's better." Ling Chen chuckled, and walked towards the town. "Remember, don't casually come out, and don't talk when there are other people around." Cai'Er quickly nodded her head. The town was quite quiet when they entered. At this time, most people were probably working. Ling Chen greeted a young woman, and politely asked, "Hello, could you please tell me where the item shop is?" "Hello. Oh, could you be one of those otherworlders from the legends?" The young woman looked at him in shock. "I never thought I'd meet one of you legendary people. The item shop is ahead. If you continue walking on this road, you'll see it in about 300 meters. Thank you very much." Ling Chen thanked her, and continued walking. The young woman stared at him, and thought inwardly, "I heard that these otherworlders are pretty weak, but they can continuously revive. What an enviable ability." Very soon, Ling Chen found the item shop. The owner, a middle-aged man, looked at Ling Chen and smiled warmly. "Hello, young warrior. What can I do for you?" Looking at the goods, Ling Chen saw that none of the potions or crystals were better than what was sold in the Azure Dragon City. It seemed that the only place where he could buy better potions and crystals would be at the Central Imperial City. Ling Chen bought a few teleport scrolls for the Cloud River town, then, after asking some questions about the Cloud River town, turned and left. After buying the teleport scroll for this town, he had achieved his goal. After taking Cai'Er back to her home, he could directly return to here. "Cai'Er, from the way these people talk and conduct themselves, aren't they all good, kind people? None of them are as evil or bad as you said. Which of the people we met seemed like a bad person?" After walking to a secluded spot, Ling Chen asked Cai'Er. "They don't seem like bad people, but Granny said that humans. Has your granny ever met a human before? Has she ever talked to a human before?" Ling Chen did not wait for Cai'Er to finish before bombarding her with another 2 questions. Cai'Er stayed silent for a while, before replying in a small voice, "Granny's never left the fairy realm either, so she's never met a human before. So your granny, as well as all the other fairies who told you humans are all bad, have never met humans before, right? Even though you think humans are all bad people, you've only heard about them before today, right?" Ling Chen slowly asked. Cai'Er poked her head out from within the cloak, thought for a while, then weakly tried to rebut, "But Granny would never lie to me." "Yes, but which one is more reliable, hearing about something or seeing something? Which human in this town is as wicked or scary as your granny described?" Ling Chen asked. The little fairy was once again stumped. After all, how could such a pure and innocent little fairy contend with Ling Chen, this sly old fox? Ling Chen continued to talk. "It's true that there are bad humans, but those people are in the minority. The majority of humans are all very friendly and kind. Although the fairies have gone into seclusion for quite a long time now, but whenever the humans talk about fairies, they always say that the fairies are beautiful, kind and love peace. As such, whenever humans think of fairies, they always view them in a very positive light. Everything I said to you before about what would happen if other humans discovered you was just to scare you. Cai'Er. So, before we return to the fairy clan, do you want to play in the human world for a bit? Think about it, after you return to the fairy realm, you might not be able to come out for the rest of your life. This might be the last chance you get to properly see the human world, so that you can tell your granny, dad, and big sister all about it. What do you think?" Ling Chen asked. As there was no one else around, Cai'Er's entire body was outside of the cloak. Ling Chen's words were very enticing to her. When she was in the fairy realm, she had been very apprehensive of the outside world, but because of her curious nature, she had always wondered what this outside world would be like. She wasn't able to resist this offer, and nodded. Soon after, a rumble escaped from her stomach. "Hungry?" Ling Chen laughed. The little fairy pitifully nodded. "I came out to get some floral nectar to eat, and then I was transported out. I'm so hungry now. I really want to eat something." "Do you usually eat floral nectar for your meals?" Ling Chen curiously asked. "Floral nectar, pollen, petals, dew of the dawn and dusk are all things we like to eat and drink. Cai'Er said as she swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Within the fairy realm, there were many different types of flowers and grasses, so it wasn't too surprising that some of them or parts of them were edible. Ling Chen took out 2 Azure Dragon City teleport scrolls, and handed one to Cai'Er. Hold this in your hand and shatter it with your hands. I'll take you to eat something now, even though human food is very different to fairy food, but maybe you'll like it. After returning to the Azure Dragon City, Ling Chen kept his cloak on so that no one would find out about Cai'Er. Within Ling Chen's cloak, Cai'Er peeked out from some gaps. Seeing so many people, as well as all the architectural structures, Cai'Er could not help but gasp in shock. Wow! These houses are so tall and so pretty. In the little town, she felt that the houses looked very strange. However, when she saw the countless beautiful and splendorous houses in the Azure Dragon City, her mouth hung wide open in complete shock. In the fairy realm, she had never seen such beautiful architecture before. Amazed, right? Our human world has all sorts of houses. Some are even bigger and prettier than these ones. Also, it's even more beautiful inside. Ling Chen proudly said. He was quite amused by her reaction. So beautiful, the little fairy muttered, completely and utterly entranced. She continued to mumble, I want to live in this sort of house. Wow, so beautiful. Ling Chen took Cai'Er to the largest food square in the Azure Dragon City, and booked one of the most luxurious VIP rooms, then proceeded to order 8 or 9 dishes. Every corner of the VIP room was decorated with beautiful items, whether it was the walls, ground, table, lights, windows. Cai'Er's mouth hung open for a long time as she looked around her. She couldn't believe that this was all reality. What do you think? Whether it's the outside or the inside, our houses are much more beautiful than your ones, right? Ling Chen smugly asked. Cai'Er could only dumbly nod in response. In the virtual world, if one didn't want to wait, they could request that the dishes be served as soon as they were ordered. After ordering, Ling Chen selected the option to have them all brought up immediately. After a few beautiful waitresses brought him all of the food he had ordered, Ling Chen took the little Cai'Er out of his cloak. By now, her saliva had soaked a large patch on the front of her dress. It smells so good, so good. Cai'Er sniffed around her, as if she was trying to breathe in the food itself. Upon smelling all the delicious food in front of her, her mouth began to overflow with saliva. Ling Chen casually sniffed, and thought to himself, the food I ordered wasn't even that luxurious. It seems that the food fairies eat is much different to what we eat. If you want to eat, then go ahead. No one else will come here. Ling Chen said as he smiled. Cai'Er vigorously swallowed another mouthful of saliva, and asked in a small voice, Can I really? After receiving confirmation from Ling Chen again, she couldn't hold back anymore and quickly flew over. Ling Chen had ordered 9 dishes in total, and Cai'Er had already finished one in just a matter of seconds. She raised her head from the plate, and licked her lips. Wow, so yummy. I've never eaten something so yummy before. This is definitely the most yummiest thing in the whole world. After recovering, she leapt towards another plate, and after taking a small bite, her eyes flashed. Wow! Heavens, this one is even more delicious than the one from before. Cai'Er's yelling caused Ling Chen to become speechless. The food in the plate rapidly disappeared as Cai'Er once again started to devour everything. Ling Chen was simply amazed. How could Cai'Er's little body fit so much food? Seeing Cai'Er in her frenzy, he walked over to another side of the room and picked up his communication device. He softly said, Rua, have you eaten with Tian yet? Can you get Meng Xian and the others to come to where I am? I'm at the Central Food Plaza in the Emperor Room. I'm going to introduce a very cute friend to you guys. After talking to Rua, Cai'Er was still feasting her heart out. Ling Chen sat next to her and watched her eat. 10 minutes later. Phew, Cai'Er comfortably sat on the table, and happily patted her little stomach. As her little tongue licked her lips, she exclaimed, "So full, so full. Human big bro, so this is what your human food is like. It's simply too delicious. Much better than your fairy food, right?" Ling Chen smiled as he replied. The little fairy nodded her head earnestly. "I didn't know there could be such yummy things in the world. You humans are so lucky. If you stay in the human world, you can eat this sort of thing every day." Ling Chen smilingly said. The little fairy who had cried her heart out because she was taken to the human world now had a look of deep contemplation on her face. After thinking for a while, she reluctantly shook her head. Even though I want to eat this yummy food every day, but Granny said that I shouldn't go to the human world. I'm sure they're all very worried about me right now." Seeing the scraps of food left, Cai'Er swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and asked in a small voice, "Big bro, can I take some food back with me? I really want Granny, Dad and Big Sis to try some as well." "Sure. This place does takeaways, so I'll order some for you now." Ling Chen immediately agreed. "Wah! Thank you big bro, you're really a good person," the little fairy ecstatically replied. Unknowingly, she started to like this big brother more and more. Ling Chen ordered even more food for takeaway, and put all of it in front of Cai'Er. There was so much that it could be described as a small mountain. Cai'Er gazed at all the food for a while, then waved her hand. A green glow appeared on the food, and the takeaway food disappeared. "Alright, now I can bring all of the food back with me," Cai'Er said as she patted her hands. She had probably put the food into some sort of special item or dimension. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. "Big brother, are you inside?" Inside the VIP room, even if it was the waitresses, they would first have to knock, and would have to be given permission to enter before they could enter. Hearing the voice from outside, Cai'Er panicked, and instinctively shot into Ling Chen's cloak. Ling Chen chuckled, and replied, "I'm inside, you guys can come in." Xue Ruo, Meng Xian, Shao Qi, Su'er and Mu Bingyao walked in. Xue Ruo walked over and smiled. "Big brother, you said that you wanted to introduce us to a very cute friend. Where is he or she?" "Right here." Ling Chen mysteriously smiled, and took off his cloak. "Cai'Er, come out, I want to introduce a few human big sisters to you." Seeing that her hiding place had suddenly vanished, the little fairy gave a cry of surprise and flew behind Ling Chen's back, her hands covering her eyes, as if she believed that if she couldn't see them, they couldn't see her either. She was not fearful of Ling Chen anymore, but that did not mean that she was not scared of humans in general. After seeing so many humans approach, she couldn't help but feel scared. Wah! Even though Cai'Er flew behind Ling Chen very quickly, the girls were still able to see what she looked like. They all let out cries of surprise. This little person was so small, and had a pair of transparent wings. Ling Chen moved aside, and used his hands to move Cai'Er in front of him. He comfortingly said, "Cai'Er, don't be afraid, they're all good people and won't harm you." As he spoke to Cai'Er, he looked at the girls, and signaled to them not to do anything that would scare the little fairy. The girls were all staring at Cai'Er, their eyes were filled with curiosity and liking. It was the same way Ling'er looked at her dolls. Indeed, none of the girls could resist this cute and beautiful little person. So cute. I've never met such a cute little girl before. Xue Ruo was instantly smitten by this little fairy, and she walked closer as she smiled. "Little sister, is Cai'Er your name?" No one could resist Xue Ruo's gentle and heartwarming voice. Hearing this voice, the little fairy looked up, and nervously said, I'm called Cai'Er." "Cai'Er, what a lovely name. It suits you a lot," Xue Ruo said as she smiled. Even if Cai'Er tried, she simply wouldn't be able to find anything scary about Xue Ruo. Seeing Xue Ruo's smile, she simply couldn't stay nervous anymore. "Cai'Er, not only are you so pretty, but your name is very pretty as well." Shao Qi also walked over, and looked at this little girl closely. "I'm called Qi Qi, you can call me Big Sister. This is called Shui Rua, this is Su Su, this is Meng Xian, and this is Mu Bingyao. We can all be good friends to Cai'Er." Seeing that Cai'Er was still a little bit nervous, Shao Qi introduced everyone to her. Yun Meng Xian looked at Cai'Er for a while, then gently asked, "Little sister, how old are you this year?" "Me? I'm 103 years old this year," the little Cai'Er replied. Yun Meng Xian, Shui Rua. The girl's change of expressions was almost comical. This answer was something that they definitely had not expected. Ling Chen explained, "That's really her age. Cai'Er isn't a human of the Forgotten Continent, but a fairy." "Fairy?" The girls were all shocked. Ling Chen nodded and explained, Fairies usually live for 1,000 years or so. A fairy who is 103 years old is equivalent to a human who is about 10 years old. Not only do fairies live for a long time, but they also age slowly, and their mentality develops at a similar rate. As such, Cai'Er's personality is that of a 10-year-old child's. Subsequently, Ling Chen told them about how he had entered the fairy forest, followed Xiao Hui into the fairy realm, and taken Cai'Er out from there. The girls were all extremely shocked and amazed, and couldn't stop letting out cries of surprise. "Big brother, you're so bad. I can't believe you took Cai'Er out like that. I'm sure she was very scared at the time." Shui Rua rebuked Ling Chen as she bent down to comfort Cai'Er. "Cai'Er, don't worry, and don't be afraid. Very soon, Big Brother will send you back. We'll all protect you and won't let anyone harm you." Although they had been strangers, but after interacting with the girls for a while, Cai'Er was not afraid of them anymore. Within her heart, she thought to herself that humans weren't as scary or terrible as her granny had said. On the contrary, they all seemed very kind and nice. "I'm going to take Cai'Er back today. It's just that Cai'Er has already lived for 100 years, but this is her first time leaving the fairy realm. After taking her back, she might never be able to come out again. So before I take her back, do you all want to take her out to play?" "Of course," Shui Rua happily replied. "Great, great. Cai'Er, there are lots of fun places in the Azure Dragon City. There's a massive amusement park, so we'll take you there, okay?" Of course, Shao Qi was completely on board with this idea. "Cai'Er, can I hug you?" Su'er stood in front of Cai'Er and nervously asked. She looked even more nervous than Cai'Er herself. However, it was obvious from the way she looked at Cai'Er that she really, really liked this little fairy. Me too, me too. Cai'Er, let Big Sister hug you, alright? HNN. Qi Qi, don't steal her away from me. Wow. Cai'Er was amazed by the sea of people, as well as countless rides and things to play. Shao Qi walked over, and smiled. "Cai'Er, there's many, many things to play here. Do you want to spend some time here?" "Yes." Cai'Er vigorously nodded her head. She was at the age that loved to play, and there were so many toys that could be won at different stalls. "What do you want to play first?" "Oh, let's go on a roller coaster." Shao Qi immediately chose her target. "Qi Qi, can you not choose to start with something so hair-raising?" Ling Chen retorted. "It's decided, let's go, let's go." Shao Qi pulled Su'er and Shui Ruo's hands as she charged over to a roller coaster. Ling Chen and the others could only helplessly follow behind her. Roller coasters, seesaws, merry-go-rounds, rafting, swings, ice skating, adventure palace, fairy tale palace, scenery palace, etc., the group played on nearly everything the amusement park had to offer. With the entire Heart's Dream present, as well as an extra little guest, everyone had a great time. Cai'Er, who had never left the fairy realm before, had never seen such amazing things before. Going to the amusement park with Ling Chen and the others had been incredibly exciting for her. From the beginning to the end of the day, she had not stopped yelling, screaming, laughing. She forgot all about how scared she was of the human world, and forgot to hide within Ling Chen's cloak. The girls always stood around her to make sure that no one else saw her. The group played from noon till evening. The little fairy who had been yelling and screaming the entire afternoon was on the verge of collapse. She tiredly sat on the seat in the Ferris wheel, her little face completely red. Even Ling Chen sat there, trying to recover his strength. However, the girls were unwilling to waste even a single minute with this little fairy. Xiaoqi and Su'er were constantly talking to Cai'Er and asking her questions. "Cai'Er, did you have fun today?" Cai'Er nodded her head very quickly. "I had so much fun. I've never felt so happy before." "Huh, it was much more fun than in your fairy world, right?" Xiaoqi mischievously asked. Although she had spent about half a day in the human world, the little fairy immediately nodded. "You humans are so lucky, living in such beautiful houses, eating such yummy food, having so many fun things to play." Cai'Er really did like the human world. At the same time, she did not feel fearful of these girls anymore. Instead, she secretly felt very happy when she was with them, because they were so kind and treated her so well. It was completely different to what her granny had told her. This half a day of experience in the human world caused her view of the humans and the human world to change completely. Then just stay with us, Cai'Er. We'll take Cai'Er to play every day. How does that sound?" Xiaoqi excitedly asked. The little fairy felt her heart starting to beat quickly. She knew that she definitely shouldn't leave the fairy realm, and definitely shouldn't stay. And yet, she so desperately wanted to stay with these people and continue to play in the human world. She bit her lips and slowly shook her head. "But, us fairies shouldn't be in the human world. This is how it's been for a long time. My granny, dad and big sis are all going to very worried about me, and are all waiting for me to go back." So, granny, dad and big sis. Xiaoqi tentatively asked, "Cai'Er, what about your mum?" "Mum?" This caused Cai'Er to look downcast, and she shook her head. "I don't have a mum, and I've never met my mum before. I only have granny, dad and big sis. Everyone else all have a mum, but I've never met my mum, and I don't know where she is." Hearing this, all of the girls looked at Cai'Er sympathetically. Everyone knew that a mother's love was one of the most precious things in the world. Xiaoqi's eyes became teary, and she couldn't help but hug Cai'Er. "That's okay, you've still got your granny, dad and big sister, and now you also have us. We'll always be Cai'Er's good friends, and we'll definitely protect Cai'Er. Cai'Er, did you know, we're actually quite similar. After I was born, my mum she passed away. Growing up, I've never met my mum before and I don't know what she was like. However, I still have my dad and my big brother, and they treat me very well. So I'm not that envious of anyone else, and I live happier than anyone else. Cai'Er, even if we don't have mums, we still have to live happily, okay?" Cai'Er nodded, and enjoyed the sensation of being hugged by Xiaoqi. Ling Chen looked up and looked at Xiaoqi in shock. He had never known that from the day Xiaoqi was born, she had lost her mum. He looked at Meng Xian and Su'er, and saw that after what Xiaoqi had said, they all seemed to be a bit down. This was especially so for Su'er. Her head was lowered, and her hands clenched onto her dress. She bit her lips, and her eyes became misty. What was going on? Why did Su'er have such a reaction to Xiaoqi's words? Could there be some sort of secret? Poor Chi, to have lost her mum when she was born, at least she still has her dad. Shui Ruo's eyes became red, and she sighed as she leaned on Ling Chen. Ling Chen gently smiled, and said in a warm tone, "Even if everyone else leaves, I'll still be with you forever." Shui Ruo smiled, and leaned in close to his ears. "Big brother, it's already quite late and you haven't even had lunch yet." Ling Chen nodded, and looked at the time. It was already 7 p.m., so he decided that he should take Qai'Er back soon. He stood up, and went over to Qai'Er. "Qai'Er, it's quite late, so I should take you back now." Going back already?" Hearing Ling Chen say that, Shao Qi quickly hugged Qai'Er, refusing to let her be taken away. "This can't be helped," Ling Chen explained. "Qai'Er's been out here for a long time, and the fairy clan is probably panicking. If I don't quickly take Qai'Er back, the fairy clan might move out to find and kill me. As for Qai'Er, I'm sure you want to go home too, right?" After getting off the Ferris wheel, the group went to a secluded area to say their goodbyes. Qai'Er waved her hands, unwilling to part with these big sisters. "Qai'Er, here are a few toys that we bought from the toy store just then, take them with you. Also, here's some clothes for Qai'Er. Qai'Er can wear the smaller ones, and the bigger ones are for your big sister and your dad. I'm sure you big sister and your dad will like the clothes as well. Here's lots of yummy lollies. Don't eat too many in one go though, otherwise it'll be bad for your teeth. Say hi to your friends and relatives for me. Qai'Er, do your best to be happy every day, we'll all miss you." As she said her goodbyes, Qai'Er's eyes became misty, and tears started to roll down. She yelled out, "Big sisters, I'll also miss you all a lot." Ling Chen patted Qai'Er's shoulders and said, "It's time to go." Ling Chen and Qai'Er each shattered a teleport scroll, and appeared in the town near the fairy forest. Why Ling Chen made so much effort to make sure that Qai'Er had a good time in the human world and changed her view towards humans, Ling Chen had no idea. Perhaps it was because he felt indignant towards the fairy's unjustified loathing of all humans. Perhaps it was because he did not want the fairy clan to be too angry that he had taken away Qai'Er. Perhaps it was because he wanted Shura and the others to see what fairies were like. On the way back to the fairy forest, he mulled over this inwardly. 1 hour later. "This is the fairy forest, your home is inside. You'll be able to go home soon," Ling Chen said as he pointed towards the green forest. There was no need for Ling Chen's announcement. When they were close to the forest, she could already smell the scent of the fairy realm. Hearing Ling Chen's words, she did not become excited, but rather stopped in front of the forest, silently looking ahead. Ling Chen also stopped walking. "Qai'Er, what's wrong?" The little fairy was not as excited or relieved as he had expected her to have been. Instead, she looked at Ling Chen with a complicated look on her face. "Big bro, in future, can I still meet those big sisters?" Ling Chen couldn't help but laugh. "If you want to meet them, just come out of the fairy realm and come to the human world. Then you'll be able to see them again." The little fairy lapsed into silence. She didn't fly around anymore, but stood on the cloud-stepping mare's head, staring ahead. Ling Chen did not say anything, but increased the speed, and charged into the fairy forest. Qai'Er looked ahead. "I know about the bewildering formation. Granny said that people who are trying to enter our fairy realm will always be transported to a different place if they don't know exactly how to get past the bewildering formation. However, even I don't know how to get past it." Qai'Er had never left the fairy realm before, so it wasn't strange that she did not know how to get past the bewildering formation. Originally, Ling Chen had believed that the bewildering formation didn't affect fairies. "Alright, I'll have to take you in then. Come, follow me. Remember to always hold on to me, and don't let go." After being taken out from the fairy realm, Qai'Er had pretty much forgotten all of the strict rules that fairies were required to observe. Qai'Er, who had been adamantly opposed to coming into contact with Ling Chen, now tightly held on to Ling Chen's clothes. Xiao Hui led the way, repeating the motions that they had done the first time they had entered the fairy realm. Not too long after, they passed through the bewildering formation. The system announcement telling them that they had entered the fairy realm sounded out, and they appeared in the sea of flowers and grasses. "Alright, you can go home now," Seeing the beautiful scene, Ling Chen couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Cai'Er was amazed and in awe of the human world, and Ling Chen was even more amazed and in awe of the fairy realm. He patted Cai'Er's small head. "You should go home now, I'm sure that your family's very worried about you. I should also quickly leave, otherwise I'll be in trouble if your dad or big sister find me here again." Cai'Er did not resist being patted by him. She looked up, and her eyes began to become misty. "Big bro, even though you forcefully took me out, but today I had so much fun. It was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Thank you so much, big bro. Because of you, I found out that humans and the human world aren't that scary, and I'll definitely miss you and all the big sisters." As she spoke, Cai'Er began to sniffle. It seemed that she was really quite reluctant to part with him. "Huh," Ling Chen laughed, "don't cry, otherwise if your family saw, they'd think I bullied you." He paused, and softly said, "Cai'Er, I'm going now. Maybe in future I'll come to play with you again." "Really?" Cai'Er's teary eyes shone with excitement. She stretched out her pinky. "Promise?" Ling Chen was slightly shocked, and also stretched out his pinky, making a pinky promise with Cai'Er. "I promise. Maybe next time I come I'll also bring those big sisters." Cai'Er happily nodded. "You definitely have to come, I'll be here waiting for you all." "Alright, I'm going now." Ling Chen took out a Cloud River Town teleport scroll, and gently shattered it. Ding, you cannot use teleport scrolls in sealed maps. Ling Chen, big brother, what's wrong? Seeing that he was still standing there motionless, Cai'Er quietly asked what going on. "The teleport scroll I bought isn't working here, so I can only exit through the bewildering formation. Goodbye, Cai'Er. Remember to say hi to your family and friends for me." Ling Chen waved, and walked back the way he came. After walking through the sea of flowers and grasses, he would once again reach the forest, and pass through the bewildering formation. "Ah! Be careful, big bro. Whoa." After he took a few steps forwards, Cai'Er called out to him, and Xiao Hui also stopped and let out a bark of warning. Ling Chen slowed down, but his body still crashed into something solid. He stumbled back, and rubbed his head, his eyes wide as he looked ahead of him. Although he had clearly bumped into something, there was definitely nothing there. He shook his head, and carefully walked forwards, his hand stretched out in front of him. Soon, his hand felt something incredibly solid. This was an invisible barrier. He walked around, but no matter where he tried, the invisible barrier seemed to encompass the entire fairy realm. "What's going on? What is this?" Ling Chen turned to ask Cai'Er. Cai'Er looked at him for a while, her expression downcast. I actually forgot, around the fairy realm, there is a barrier that only lets you enter, but does not let you exit. Within this barrier, unless it's through Nature's Ring, there's no other way of getting out." Ling Chen, Nature's Ring, wasn't that the skill that Ying Xue used to teleport him 500 kilometers away? With no way to walk out, and the teleport scroll unusable inside this sealed map, Ling Chen could only helplessly say, "Looks like we'll have to call your sister to get her to use Nature's Ring to send me out." Before, she had forcefully sent him out upon seeing him. Surely she'd be willing to do it again at his request. But, Cai'Er looked as if she wanted to cry. "Only Big Sis can use Nature's Ring, and it can only be used once every 100 years. Ling Chen and Cai'Er stared at each other in silence, before Ling Chen spluttered, "What? Once, every 100 years? It was just used this afternoon, so the next time will be after another 100 years. God damn it, email protected, $%. Is this some kind of joke?" Seeing Ling Chen's face tighten, Cai'Er knew that she had made a massive mistake. She hurriedly said, "Big bro, don't worry. I'll find Granny and Dad and see if they can do something about it. Granny and Dad are really powerful, so I'm sure they'll know what to do." Ling Chen was starting to feel desperate. He took out different teleport scrolls and tried them all one by one. Of course, not a single one of them worked. It seemed that this barrier prevented one from exiting through any means. Ling Chen could only give in. Alright, let's go find your granny and dad. The fairy houses were completely different to human houses. The fairy houses were all fairly small, and made entirely of wood. Some were made simply by turning parts of trees into houses, making the house part of the tree. Although the houses were all built in different places on different trees, they didn't give an impression of being disorganized or disorderly. Rather, looking at the houses was like looking at a piece of art. Moreover, the air and atmosphere here was clean and fresh, without a single bit of pollution. Granny, Dad, Big Sis. I'm back. In the residential area, Cai'Er loudly called out. Because of how peaceful it was, Cai'Er's voice traveled very far. Beside her, Ling Chen silently considered the different possibilities of what might happen. Immediately, a white glow appeared in front of them. Ying Xue appeared, and seeing Cai'Er, her face burst into a smile. Cai'Er, however, she saw Ling Chen next to her, and her expression changed. At this moment, a green glow also appeared, and a vigorous-looking middle-aged man appeared next to Ying Xue. He looked at Cai'Er, and became very emotional. Cai'Er, you're finally back. This is great. We were so worried the entire day, thinking about how to bring, The middle-aged man stopped talking halfway through his sentence and looked at Ling Chen, weighing him up. He calmly said, You're the human that took Cai'Er away. Dad. Cai'Er hurriedly flew in front of Ling Chen. Big bro isn't a bad person. Even though he took me out, but he was very nice to me. He took me to play at a really fun place, and we ate so much yummy food, then brought me back. Dad, please don't be angry at him. Big bro's really not a bad person. Seeing Cai'Er's actions, the middle-aged man warmly laughed. Cai'Er, when did I say that I was angry at him? It was obvious that he brought you back. Just from this, Dad wouldn't be angry at him. Hello, otherworlder guest, welcome to the fairy realm. I heard about the impolite way my daughter Ying Xue treated you before. I hope you don't take offense. Thank you for taking care of Cai'Er and bringing her back. My name is Greenwood, and I am the current chief of the fairy clan. You can call me Greenwood. Although the middle-aged man looked at him very warmly, Ling Chen felt as if the fairy chief could see through every single bit of him. Just this proved that this middle-aged man was terrifyingly powerful. At least, he was much more terrifying than the Heaven's End great Ying Xue. Hearing that he was the fairy chief, Ling Chen slightly relaxed. Although he was still a bit shocked about how warm and cordial this person was, he politely responded, Fairy chief, you are too polite. I was in the wrong in entering the fairy realm and taking away Cai'Er. The fairy chief's kindness and congeniality makes me feel ashamed of my actions. Greenwood nodded in a satisfied manner. Cai'Er is not only safe, but is so happy. It seems that our worries from before were unnecessary. Distinguished guest, you don't need to blame yourself. You can treat this place like your own home. Immediately, 100 question marks appeared in Ling Chen's head. Weren't all fairies afraid of and hostile towards humans? The first time he had come, Cai'Er had been scared out of her mind, and had taken out her weapon to attack him to chase him away. Ying Xue wordlessly decided to send him far, far away. And yet, the chief of the fairy clan was so incredibly welcoming and warm towards him. Fairies were indeed the most beautiful creatures in the world. No matter if it was the males or females, Ling Chen could see that every single one of them were beautiful and stunning. As for Ying Xue, she was on a completely different level to all of the other fairies. Her beauty and the atmosphere around her made one want to gaze at her forever. Seeing that her dad was not angry at Ling Chen, and was not going to do anything to him, Cai'Er let out a breath that she had been holding. However, she was a bit curious as to why their reactions were so different from that which she had expected. She directly said, "Dad, in order to take me back, Big Bro has no way of getting out. Big Sis already used her nature's ring today, so she can only use it again after 100 years. Are there any other ways to send Big Brother out? Dad, you're so powerful, so I'm sure you'll find a way, right?" Ling Chen followed on, "Fairy Chief Greenwood, I only came here to send Cai'Er home. After all, I am a human, so I definitely can't stay here, so I have a question for you, and you must answer truthfully." Ying Xue, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke as she looked at Ling Chen. "What is it?" Ling Chen nodded. "Do you have my first wings?" Ying Xue slowly asked with a complicated look in her crystal eyes. Whoosh! As soon as Ying Xue spoke, Ling Chen could feel that every single fairy's eyes were locked onto him. Even Greenwood was staring at him in concentration, waiting for his answer. Cai'Er's mouth was wide open, looking at him in shock. Ling Chen could feel that something was off. Indeed, he had stolen something called Ying Xue's first wings from Ying Xue, and seeing the fairy's reactions, it seemed to be something important. Knowing the situation he was in, Ling Chen didn't want to risk lying. He nodded. "Before, I was caught up in the moment and took an item from you. It seems that this item is very important to you, and I didn't intentionally take it, so I hope you're not too angry. I'll return it to you now." As he spoke, Ling Chen took out Ying Xue's first wings, and held it in front of Ying Xue. This was a pair of very beautiful wings, and were extremely similar to the wings on Ying Xue's back, except them were much smaller. They were not as transparent as the ones on Ying Xue's back, but were still incredibly beautiful. The scent that it released was one of grasses and flowers, as well as a maiden's fragrance. The moment Ling Chen admitted it, and took out the wings, the amount of quiet whispering within the crowd of fairies suddenly increased by many times. The way they looked at Ling Chen also completely changed. This was especially so for the younger male fairies. Some looked extremely gloomy, while others looked at Ling Chen with extreme admiration. This sort of reaction caused Ling Chen to become extremely confused. What sort of thing were these first wings? Ying Xue did not take them, but stared at him dumbly. Although she was certain that it was him who had taken them away, but at this moment, she was unable to stay calm and her chest heaved. Ying Xue was incredibly beautiful, and this reaction caused Ling Chen to feel even more shocked. Apart from the quiet discussions in the crowd, everyone else was silent. Ah! It was Cai'Er who broke the silence. Her little face was filled with shock, as if the most inconceivable thing in the whole world had happened. Her eyes moved rapidly from Ling Chen, to the first wings, to Ying Xue, and she stuttered, Big Bro, why you have Big Sis first wings?" Ahem. Seeing everyone in shock, Greenwood coughed twice, walked forwards and smiled, "Young human, since you have taken away Ying Xue's first wings, this is a miraculous turn of fate. Since it's like this, please keep the first wings, there's no need to return them to her. Alright, please put them away." But Ling Chen was not entirely sure what was happening. He looked towards Ying Xue, and saw that her eyes were filled with confusion, and she turned around. Ling Chen could only put away the first wings. "Alright, thank you Ying Xue for your gift." Fairy Chief Greenwood, about what I was asking before, Greenwood shook his head. "The barrier is something that our ancestors put up to separate our fairy clan from the rest of the world. It is invincible and encompasses everything. It's almost impossible to break through it forcefully. Even if the entire clan attacks it, it won't be damaged in the slightest. The fairy realm can only be entered, but not exited except through the nature's ring. Over all these years, you're the first human to enter here, as well as the first human to be transported out by the nature's ring. However, the nature's ring can only be used once every 100 years, and there are no other ways of exiting." Ling Chen frowned. Apart from nature's ring, there was no way of getting out of the fairy realm. If this was true, within Mystic Moon, he would only be able to do things within the fairy realm. The only other way to leave would be to die, and his level would go back to LV0. Greenwood saw the worry in Ling Chen's eyes, and he comforted Ling Chen, saying, "Young human, please calm down. There is still some hope. My mother knows countless secrets, so perhaps she knows of a way to exit. However, right now mother is cultivating, and she will only come out of seclusion tomorrow. In this period of time, feel free to take a walk around and have a look. Please treat this like your own home, I'm sure every fairy will welcome you. I have some clan matters to attend to, so I will have to leave now. After discussing with mother tomorrow, I will immediately let you know what we can do. Cai'Er, Ying Xue, please show him around. Everyone, please go back to your own homes. Please don't overwhelm our first visitor." Greenwood smiled at Ling Chen, then turned to leave. Ling Chen simply couldn't understand why he was being so friendly. There's definitely something wrong here. Ling Chen scratched his head. Greenwood had quite a high status in the fairy clan, and after what he said, all of the surrounding fairies quickly dispersed. Before leaving, all the fairies once again looked at Ling Chen strangely, though they did not seem hostile. "Ah!" After Greenwood left, Cai'Er began to yell out. She floated in front of Ying Xue, and jumped onto her, yelling, "Big sis, big sis, big sis. You actually gave your first wings to Big Bro. Big Bro's a human." Ying Xue continued to face away from Ling Chen. Ling Chen couldn't see her expression, but could hear the emotion in her voice. "I didn't give them to him, he somehow took them away from me. You can ask him." After speaking, Ying Xue left without even looking at Ling Chen again. "Oh, I see." Cai'Er used her fingers to tap on her lips as she thought. "Cai'Er," Ling Chen couldn't help it anymore and asked, "Cai'Er, what are these first wings? Do they have some sort of special significance?" Big Bro doesn't know? "Oh, that's right, Big Bro's a human, so you probably don't know these things," the little fairy began to earnestly explain. "First wings are the first pair of wings that us fairies are born with. When we come of age, our first wings fall off, and we grow new wings. The wings that fall off, our first wings, become a female fairy's most important possession, even more important than our own lives. If a female fairy gives their first wings to a male fairy, and if the male fairy accepts, that means they've decided to spend their whole lives together. If a female fairy loses or destroys her first wings, then she will have to spend her whole life alone, unable to marry. As for male fairies, their first wings aren't too important." Ling Chen, hearing Cai'Er's explanation, Ling Chen's expression became almost comical. He didn't know if he should laugh or cry. "But Big Sis is a fairy." Ling Chen's head felt as if it was going to split apart. He looked at the direction to which Ying Xue had walked, and cursed himself for using Lucky Hand on Ying Xue. Now, he was damned if he kept them, and damned if he gave them back. He also couldn't leave. Could it be that he really would have to? He suddenly realized many things: why Greenwood had been so friendly to him, why the fairy clan all looked at him so oddly when he took out the first wings. Because Greenwood knew that Ling Chen had his daughter's first wings, he treated Ling Chen like a son-in-law. Perhaps it was because of this. Maybe he would never be able to leave the fairy clan. Even if there were other methods to leave, Greenwood definitely wouldn't tell him. If he left, Ying Xue would have to live the rest of her life by herself. According to Cai'Er, a fairy woman who had given out her first wings would have to be with the person who received them, forever. If Ling Chen left, and never came back, Ying Xue would be destined to be by herself for the rest of her life. As a father, he definitely wouldn't allow this to happen, even if Ling Chen was a human. "Big Bro? Big Bro?" Cai'Er called out to him many times, then said in a small voice, "It's all my fault. In order to bring me back, Big Bro has to go through all of this. But that's alright, because I'm sure Big Bro will really like the fairy realm. And also, there are so many big brothers chasing Big Sis in the fairy clan, but Big Sis rejected them all. Now, Big Bro gets to be with Big Sis forever. Big Sis is so beautiful and so gentle, so I'm sure Big Bro really likes Big Sis, right? Ling Chen replied in a depressed voice, "Cai'Er, I'm different from you fairies. This is your home, but it's not my home. If I stay here forever, I won't be able to meet my family or friends ever again. For example, those big sisters you met today. If I stay here forever, I'll never be able to meet them again, and they'll be very worried about me. Also, the fairy realm is much too different from the human world. I don't think I'll ever be able to get used to here." If there really was no other way, then Ling Chen could only choose to die. After all, dropping down back to LV0 was better than staying here forever. "Oh. I see, Big Bro is right." Cai'Er understandingly nodded her head. She comforted him in a small voice, "Don't worry, Big Bro, Granny's very powerful, so I'm sure she will have a way. However, when Big Bro leaves, make sure you bring Big Sis with you. You have Big Sis first wings, so you need to be with Big Sis forever. I'm sure Dad and the others will agree to Big Sis leaving with you when you go." Ling Chen nodded his head. Right now, he just wanted to leave. Everything else would fall into place if he could just leave. When Ling Chen logged off, it was nearly 8 p.m. He gloomily walked out from the bedroom. He saw Tian hugging an armful of new clothes as she ran towards the bathroom. She looked at Ling Chen, and skipped in front of him, and self-satisfiedly said, "I'll let you know, I'm already LV8 now." "So fast, right?" "Yeah, very fast." Ling Chen nodded. However, getting from LV8 to LV10 takes even longer than getting from LV0 to LV8, so don't be too full of yourself. "Humph." Tian defiantly lifted her face up, "I'm the demon queen who's going to conquer the earth. I can do anything. I'm going to shower now." "Oh, big bad guy, you didn't have lunch today. Quickly go eat, so that you'll have strength to buy me chocolate later." Seeing Tian skipping away, Ling Chen rubbed his nose. That little brat, it seems she can say some nice things now and then. Seated at the table, Shura looked at Ling Chen and immediately saw that something was wrong. She asked, "Big brother, what's wrong? Did something bad happen?" "Yes, it's something very bad," Ling Chen bitterly replied. He then told her what had happened within the fairy realm. At first, when Shura heard about the incident with Ying Xue's first wings, she couldn't help but start laughing. However, after he told her that he was trapped in there, she frowned, and anxiously asked, "What does Big Brother plan to do then?" Ling Chen helplessly replied, "I can only wait for Greenwood to give me an answer. If there's no other way, I'll just find a way to die. But, according to the fairy clan's rules, if you leave there, won't Ying Xue be alone forever?" Shura quietly asked. "Perhaps, but leaving there is more important. Forget it, let's not think about these things anymore." Having not eaten for 2 meals, Ling Chen was ravenous. He picked up his chopsticks and began to quickly eat. Soon, they could hear water running in the bathroom, as well as Tian's pleasant singing voice. Ling Chen looked up, and said, Rua, remember to make sure that Tian goes to bed early, and that she doesn't play when she sleeps. She's much younger than us, and needs to get more rest than us." Rua nodded, and gently replied, "I know." She looked towards the bathroom, and continued to speak, Tian's lived with us for so many days now, and she's never mentioned leaving, and seems very happy here. We've already started to get used to her living here, so if one day she misses her dad and mum, or if her dad and mum find her, and want to take her away, then, Ling Chen knew what Rua was worried about, and smiled, Tian's already part of our family, and this is her home now. With a big sister like you, how could she bear to leave? I'm worried that even if we want her to leave, she won't leave. Rua smiled and nodded. Around 10 p.m., Ling Chen made sure that Tian was asleep, then lay down and returned to the mystic moon world. As he logged on, he prayed that he would spawn in the Azure Dragon City, but that didn't happen. When he logged on, he was met with a world of greenness. This sight no longer made him sigh in awe and wonder, but rather in depression. "Big bro, you're back." Cai'Er seemed to be waiting for him, and as soon as he appeared, she flew over, with a large leaf in her hands. "Big bro, this is for you. It's some dew I collected from some flowers. It's very sweet and refreshing." There were a few drops of ordinary-looking dew on the jade-green leaf. Cai'Er had previously mentioned that fairies eat flower nectar, pollen and dew. However, he was not too interested in this. After all, it wasn't very practical for humans to drink dew to quench their thirst. Despite this, seeing Cai'Er's expectant expression, he received the leaf and looked at the dew's attributes. However, his casual glance caused his eyes to widen, and he nearly dropped the leaf. Hallucination, this must be a hallucination. Dew of Dusk, pure dew that is formed on fairy flowers and grasses at dusk, and contains a great amount of life energy. After consuming, restores 2000 MP every second, which persists for 10 seconds. Can be used continuously, and the effects do not decrease after continuous consumption. Restore 2000 MP every second. Ling Chen's mouth was wide open as he stared at the dew on the leaf. Right now, the best potions could only instantly restore 400 MP, and had a 5-second cooldown. Compared to this fairy dew, those potions were complete garbage. Restoring 2000 MP every second for 10 seconds, this was game-breaking. Ling Chen looked at Cai'Er, and quickly asked, "Cai'Er, where did you get this dew, and is there a lot?" Cai'Er immediately nodded. "You can find it on any flower or grass, and there's a lot. We fairies all love to drink it." Holy crap, this fairy clan has such extravagant drinks. What was even more terrifying was that this sort of overpowered item could be found all over the fairy realm in abundance. Ling Chen did not drink the dew, he simply could not bear to waste something so precious. He breathed in deeply and asked, "Do you have any way to store this dew? Is there anything you can put it in to keep it fresh?" Cai'Er once again nodded, "Of course. I have a lot of them. Look, big bro." Cai'Er took out a little jade-green bottle made of wood. Cai'Er opened the bottle, and showed it to Ling Chen. The bottle was filled with countless dewdrops. She enthusiastically said, "If you put the dewdrops in here, they can last for a long, long time." Seeing that Ling Chen was staring at the little wooden bottle in her hand, she blinked, and held it in front of him. "Big bro, if you like it, you can have this one. There are 100 dew of dawn in here." Ling Chen gratefully accepted the bottle, and looked at the dewdrops inside. "Dew of dawn, pure dew that is formed on fairy flowers and grasses at dawn, and contains a great amount of life energy. After consuming, restores 5000 HP every second, which persists for 10 seconds. Can be used continuously, and the effects do not decrease after continuous consumption." Ling Chen put away the small wooden bottle and asked Cai'Er, "Cai'Er, do you have any more? I'd like as much as possible." Cai'Er tilted her head. "Big bro really likes these dewdrops. They're definitely not as yummy as your human food though. Let's see, here, I have another bottle. You can have it." This time, Cai'Er gave Ling Chen a bottle with 100 dewdrops of Dew of Dusk. The Dew of Dawn and Dew of Dusk were things that simply could not be bought with money in the outside world. "If Big Bro really likes them, I can get some more quickly." Seeing that Ling Chen really liked these dewdrops, Cai'Er was willing to get some more. After all, these dewdrops were in abundance and did not take much effort to collect. Yes please, especially the Dew of Dawn. Those are very precious to me." Of course, for precious things like these, one could never have enough. After he left the fairy realm, he would not be able to get any more. Sure. Big Bro seems to really like our dew." Cai'Er nodded eagerly. To be able to help him after all he had done for her, Cai'Er was very happy. Oh, and by the way, Big Sis has a lot as well. If you want, you can go ask Big Sis for some. I'm sure that she'll be happy to give you some. Maybe that's not the best idea. Ling Chen shrugged. Now that he knew what first wings were, he didn't know how to confront Ying Xue. Indeed, Ying Xue was an incredibly beautiful fairy woman, peerless amongst the fairies and incomparable to humans. Even Shura was not as beautiful as Ying Xue. It would not even be an exaggeration to say that Ying Xue was the most beautiful being in all of the Forgotten Continent. This sort of woman would be every man's desire. Most men would not even dare to dream to have her. Being a man, it would be impossible for Ling Chen to say that he was not moved by her looks. However, Ying Xue was not the type that could get his heart racing. Although one of the reasons was because she was a character in a game, the main reason was that he never wanted to betray Shura. Although Shura had told him again and again that he could do anything he wanted as long as he didn't leave her, he still didn't want to do such a thing. As such, whenever he thought of Ying Xue, his head would hurt. Cai'Er, are there absolutely no gaps at all within this barrier that surrounds the fairy realm? Ling Chen asked. Although he knew there wasn't much of a possibility, he still wanted to confirm. Of course not. The barrier that our ancestors left behind completely sealed off our fairy realm, and there aren't any gaps at all. Over all these years, no fairy has ever left before. As Cai'Er spoke, she suddenly remembered something, and her eyes shone. That's right, I heard Big Sis say before that within the fairy realm, there's a place that connects to a different world. Cai'Er's words startled Ling Chen. He quickly asked, really? Where is it? Cai'Er thought for a while, and pointed towards a tall mountain. Big bro, do you see that tall mountain? It's around there. Over there, there's a transportation channel that can send you to another world. However, Big Sis said that only Dad knows the method for triggering the transportation channel, and that no one else can ever activate it. Big Sis also said that it was a forbidden area, and we shouldn't go near it, because that transportation channel was left by our ancestors to punish evildoers. If there are any evildoers, the fairy chief can send them to a terrifying place. Once someone is sent there, they can never come out. So, Big Bro should never go near there. Ling Chen looked over, and saw that the mountain was about 1 kilometer away, which wasn't too far. A transportation channel that can send one to a different world. Ling Chen's heart beat with excitement. From what Cai'Er said, apparently it wasn't a very pleasant place, but at least it would be better than being stuck in the fairy realm. Moreover, the other world didn't seem like it would be completely sealed, unlike the fairy realm, so even if there were powerful monsters, he would still be able to use his teleport scrolls. Perhaps Xiao Hui would be able to trigger the transportation channel. There was no reason not to go and have a look. After making this secret decision, Ling Chen started contemplating when he would go there. Suddenly, he heard Cai'Er shouting, Big Sis. We're over here. Ling Chen looked up, and saw Ying Xue, wearing a white dress, walking towards them. Her footsteps were soft, as if she was walking on clouds. Ling Chen couldn't help but let out a breath in awe. If such a woman appeared in the human world, perhaps all of the men in the whole world would fall for her. However, it just didn't seem possible that a human could be so beautiful. Ying Xue walked over, and looked at Ling Chen expressionlessly. Grandmother has finished cultivating and has come out of conclusion. Father already told grandmother of your situation, and they have requested your presence. Come with me. So fast? Greenwood said that they would have an answer the next day, so Ling Chen was pleasantly surprised. However, Ling Chen could already guess what Greenwood's answer would be. Even if there was a way, chances were that Greenwood wouldn't tell him. Although she was quite cold to him, she still seemed extremely beautiful. Ling Chen glanced at her, and nodded, all right then. Cai'Er, come with us as well. Ying Xue turned around and walked towards the largest, most awe-inspiring tree with Ling Chen and Cai'Er following behind her. Can I call you Ying Xue? Ling Chen asked. Ying Xue emotionlessly replied, you're my future husband, you can call me whatever you want. Ling Chen slightly paused, and a trail of sweat ran down his neck. Before, he thought Ying Xue was treating him so coldly because she was angry towards him stealing her first wings, as well as because he was an intruding human. Surely no girl would want to have her whole life determined simply because of such a silly tradition, much less Ying Xue, an incredibly beautiful fairy with an important background. However, hearing her say the words, future husband, Ling Chen's brain froze for a few seconds. Ling Chen breathed in, and asked in a serious tone, Ying Xue, answer me truthfully, do you have any feelings for me? Feelings? I've met you for less than a day, how can I possibly have feelings for you? Ying Xue answered without even turning around. Then why don't you tell your father and the rest of your family that you don't want to be with me? Ling Chen asked. Why would I do such a thing? Ying Xue asked back. You have no feelings for me, and you don't even like me. So how can you make a decision that will affect your whole life like this? Ling Chen asked as he frowned. Ying Xue slightly turned her head, her voice clear as water, because you took away my first wings, and they are with you. Ling Chen's patience disappeared, and he exasperatedly said, this is something important that will affect the rest of your life. How can you base it on such a ridiculous reason? Plus, I'm a human, so I don't need to follow your fairy clan's rules. I didn't take your first wings on purpose, and back then I didn't know what they signified. What's more, you didn't even willingly give them to me. I'm also a player, and I don't even reside in this world. If this game closes someday, even if I wanted to come here, would still disappear from your world forever. Could you accept such a situation? Ying Xue stopped walking, and turned around, her face furious, you're not willing? Creatures from different worlds indeed saw things differently. Although Ying Xue had a calm personality, but she had quite a strong reaction towards his words. Ling Chen realized that his words probably hit a sensitive spot, and remembered what Cai'Er had told him before. He could only shake his head, you are the princess of the fairy clan, and are so beautiful, how could I be unwilling? It's just that, never mind, let's go see your father first. The fairy chief's house was at the tallest tree in the fairy realm. Ying Xue opened the jade-green door and said, you can enter. Aren't you two coming in as well? Ling Chen asked. Ying Xue and Cai'Er didn't seem like they were going to follow. There are some things father wants to say to you individually, so we'll come in later. I'm going to gather our clan's 10 elders, and then conduct a ceremony. Cai'Er, let's go. Okay, big sis. Are we going to get those grandpas? Cai'Er quickly followed behind Ying Xue. Talk to me individually. Ling Chen thought for a bit, then walked in.